6:55, December 19th, 2023, and this is a special meeting of the St. Louis Park School Board for the purpose of the Superintendent Search Planning Meeting with the Minnesota School Board Association. On our agenda is really just that, one discussion item on the superintendent search, followed by adjournment. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I was looking right at you.
I know.
Moved by Virginia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Colin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have Barb Dorn and, oh my gosh, now I said it here. Oh no, it's right here. And John Ward. And Craig Morris couldn't be here with us tonight. He's not feeling well, but we will meet him shortly.
Yes, at some point, yes.
At some point in the new year.
Yes, in the new year.
And so I think I'm just going to have Barb Dorn take it away.
Great. Thank you very much. It's nice to see everyone again. Thanks for having us here tonight. We have a lot to cover, but hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at the planning meeting packet in advance. So we want to hear your questions, comments, edits, things that we need to determine in order for the successful search to kick off, hopefully this week sometime. Again, I'm Barb. I have had the opportunity to meet all of you, but John has not. So would it be all right if you each took just a moment to say your name and how long you've served on the board here in St. Louis Park, and then John will introduce himself briefly as well. We'll start over here. I have a drink of water. I'm sorry.
My name is Virginia Mancini, and I was appointed in March of 2022, elected in fall of 2022, and re-elected in fall of 2023.
Hello, I'm Sarah Davis. I use she, her pronouns, and I was similarly appointed in March of 2022 and elected in fall of 2022. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ann Casey, and I, let's see, I've been on the board for 6 years. Whenever that started.
I'm Colin Cox, and this will be my 5th year starting in January.
My name is Abdi Hakim. I am on the board, I think 2 years now. Seems more, but
It does.
Seems like more.
Yeah, I know that feeling on a lot of things.
Yeah.
You want to take down?
Yeah, and we'll just throw out there that our 2 incoming board members are in the audience today, Taylor and Celia. So Taylor, Will, and Celia Anderson, they'll be with us. They'll be joining us in January.
Great.
So.
Very exciting. Thank you. John?
I'm John Ward. I work with Barb with searches and evaluation, actually, with the School Board Association. And do you want my background?
Very briefly, yes.
Well, I retired in 19 from 28 years in education. My first couple were here, partly in this building and partly at the high school. But then I went to Mounds View High School as associate principal and activities director, and then the last 20 were in a cabinet position at Mounds View. I had a variety of titles, official and unofficial, but the last 10 was associate soup. So.
Well, welcome back.
Thanks. I was having a little
Welcome back to
homework.
Central. Was it a middle school then? Junior?
No, so we had, when I came, we had just taken the alternative school, or the school within a school, so it was senior high options at Central. The kids named it. And we were at that building, and then I would work in the morning in there with the social studies piece, and then run and teach sociology and criminal justice in the afternoon. So had a lot of fun.
Does it look the same?
What's that?
Did it look the same as when you were here?
No, not at all. In fact, we were talking about that too. And you've changed a few street things, not a lot, but enough to confuse me. So, glad to be here.
Yeah. So if you have the agenda in front of you, I'm going to do a very, very brief review. When it says review of process, I don't want to spend very long on this because I've talked about it several times with the board. I always want to remind people that the Open Meeting Law and the Government Data Practices Act will be a part of the search from beginning to end. So all of the meetings are open, the interviews are open as well, and also data privacy will come into play when you see these applications, and you need to keep the names of those applicants private until and only if they're named finalists. So I just remind folks of that in terms of the process. The other really big part of this for us is board ownership of the process. So this is yours. We support the board in the search. We don't lead the search. This is yours, and we'll intend to do everything we can to make sure that you're comfortable with every decision you make along the way. That's the biggest review I'm going to give you because the rest of the process unfolds as we go through the planning meeting packet. I'd like to start with the timeline, however, because that's first and foremost what we want to get determined tonight, the not only dates that these activities will occur, but the times that they will occur as well. If it's okay, Ann, I'm going to do a really quick overview of what each of these meetings are and how long they might be, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Ann, and she'll facilitate a conversation about does this day work or that day and what time, those sorts of things. All right, so we are tonight having a planning meeting on December 19th. We are proposing that the search be opened with the stakeholder survey on the 21st, so in 2 days. We've had a conversation with Rachel and Ashley about that, and we can certainly update you on that, but leaving that open until January 18th, hard copy and online both. And then we're going to talk about the focus groups or listening sessions as well, because outreach I know is really important to the school board. So we're going to talk about that as we get further into the packet and what you want and how we might design that. And Ashley and Rachel have got a lot of really great ideas about that. So that would occur potentially in that same window, December 21 to January 18, knowing that the holidays are here, so the majority of it will probably be in January. We will do facilitate a Q&A Zoom session on January 3rd, not a board meeting. That's something MSBA will host. We have the Zoom link. People can submit questions in advance. We'll answer all of those questions. We'll walk through the brochure, the timeline, the survey, and we'll record it so that your communications team will put the Q&A online for people to watch throughout the duration of the search. We just want to make sure that accurate information is always available at the fingertips for folks who have questions about what's going to happen, when, and why.
So that's for community.
That's for your community, for anybody's staff. You can certainly sit in on it. We generally recommend that board members don't tune in for the live session because people will be typing questions in the chat box anonymously. No one sees the questions but MSBA staff, and we answer those. However, sometimes if there's board members on that call, some people are reticent to actually type their question in because they feel like people might know who they are. You can certainly submit your questions in advance because I'll answer everything that people submit. We just want to make sure that the live session isn't perceived as any sort of power imbalance potentially for folks that are logged on. And there may only be 5 people on it, there might be 55. Hundreds will watch it later when it's on the website. So we answer every question that might feasibly be asked, even if there's a quiet group on the chat. We answer questions typically we hear in a Q&A.
May I just ask, Ashley, do you know, like, when would that communication go out to community members that this Zoom was possible?
When you say the Zoom is possible?
Like, when are we going to communicate to the community that we're having this?
Tomorrow.
Oh, perfect, lovely.
Yep, so tomorrow we are beginning communication. We're letting families know that the survey is gonna come on the 21st and they can access it through the website. We're considering that our soft launch of the survey, and we'll be doing a more firm push after the holidays when people come back from break. But in our communication that's gonna go out tomorrow, we are including the general Q&A section in it as well, with the Zoom links and where people can submit questions.
And you don't, students could participate in that as well. if they have
Absolutely.
questions or something.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It is about the process of the search. Sometimes people log on and they want to suggest questions for the interviews, and that's too early to talk about that. So if people are submitting questions about how long do you plan to stay in our district and what is your background in this, we won't address those questions. Those are interview questions. So if they want to know what's going to happen, why it's happening this way, what is the board going to do, what's the community going to do, those are the kinds of questions we'll answer on the 3rd. Okay? It goes about 45 minutes to an hour if there's a lot of participation, less so if it's quiet, but that's been a really good tool. We've done that now for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's proven, it's like a live FAQ. You know, the FAQs will be on the website. Again, your communications team is phenomenal. This is an in-person FAQ that lives for the next 3.5 months over the course of the search. We are suggesting posting this on Thursday. If you approve information tonight and you make edits to the vacancy brochure and things such as that, we'll have it on all of the websites here, MSBA, MASA, EdPost, and Revelis, which is our proprietary system that's a nationwide application database on this Thursday through February 7th, we're suggesting. The first meeting that the board needs to be at is the interview training meeting, and at that meeting we'll come up with some interview questions that we are supplying in advance, much like for your interim search. You had questions to review and you selected ones you thought might fit. And we will talk through the stakeholder report. So we want enough time between the closing of the survey and our focus groups to that meeting in order to provide a stakeholder summary report that you feel captures what all your stakeholders have said about the superintendent next, what they need and what they're looking for. So that's the first meeting. That one can last about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. I'm suggesting those dates, not written in stone, but those dates fit within the timeline I'm proposing here. After the application deadline of the 7th of February, we would look through them on the 8th, make sure they're complete. We would give access to board members on the 9th. You'll have an opportunity to create a username and password up in the cloud, and each of you can access that at any time to look at all of the application materials, all the way from cover letters, resumes, transcripts, letters of reference, licenses, all of that is at your fingertips for you as board members. If you prefer hard copy, you can let me know, and I'll work with your HR department to have one set of hard copies in the district office that you could come in and look at, not take with you, but you could look at and leave. So hard copies are an option for you too. The next meeting for the board, all the yellow meetings are board meetings. That's the determined finalists meeting. That's where you'll be talking about candidate A, B, and C. We will be coming to that meeting recommending finalists that we feel align with your hiring criteria, your leadership profile, your stakeholder survey. We've done pre-interviews with those folks. And yet, because you've seen all of the applications, you can ask us about other candidates that we're not suggesting, and we'll do our best to answer why not candidate C. Because we're bound by data privacy laws as well, so we need to be careful in our answers. And you will, at the end of that meeting, have a list of candidates that you'll pass. We want to interview candidate B, C, D, and L. And someone passes that, and later we read those names out loud. That can take anywhere from, gosh, we've had times where that's gone really fast, half an hour. If there's alignment amongst the board and MSBA, it might take hour and a half, 2 hours if you really need to debate between who you want to bring in. You might have 5 or 6 people. No more than 7 or you're going to be exhausted. 7's a lot to interview, but you'll know that night. The first round of interviews, we are suggesting you hold 2 days for that, because if you do interview 6 or 7, you could do them in one day if you start early enough, but it's a long day and you need to give yourself time to recuperate and refresh so that you're listening very carefully to the interviews. But right now we're suggesting 2 days of those first rounds. The second round, suggesting perhaps there's a whole bunch of those dates, can be done in one day. We do suggest you do them in one day, but sort of staggered interviews, so they also could go on tours or meet with stakeholders, that kind of thing. And those are a lot of options you can consider.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Yes, of course.
Because I heard you say how much time for the meeting about determining finalists, but how long did you say for the interviews?
Interviews are usually, you can change this if you want, 1 hour with 15-minute break between. So if you start at 4, for example, you could have an interview from 4 to 5, the next one would go 5:15 to 6:15, 6:30 to 7:30. You'd be done at 7:30 if you started at 4 and you only did 3. You could have longer interviews if you'd like. Sometimes boards choose round 2 to go more like an hour and a half to allow time for perhaps a presentation from the candidates on whatever topic you want to hear them present on. If you want more in-depth scenario questions, John is our expert on scenario questions to get some real deep dives into what they would do. You could go an hour and a half in round 2. You structure it the way you'd like.
Thank you.
All right, second round, again, we've got some suggestions there. And then we would suggest that night of round 2 or the very next morning, you have a contract ready to go that your selected candidate can take a look at and start negotiating with. Do you have a sense of whether you'd have a negotiations committee ahead of time or a board committee creating some guardrails or parameters for that contract so that you don't have to negotiate it from scratch that day?
I don't know.
Okay.
We don't have a sense. Do you
Okay.
have a
Well, I have it written here as board committee or designee begins negotiations. So if it's a committee, we suggest it's an open meeting. So you need to post it with 3 days' notice. MSBA would always like to be as transparent as possible. If there's a committee doing this, the challenge with them is that if you interview and hire, you want to make an offer to someone, let's just say March 19th. On March 20th, that committee and that candidate need to find a time at least 3 days out when they can sit down and talk about the contract. So you can post it with 3 days' notice. Other districts have found that to be cumbersome and it slows things down. So they will have a board subcommittee, for example, post the subcommittee meeting, talk about the contract, talk about salary, talk about benefits, come up with parameters around here's where we're going to start, and then they designate one person immediately the very next day. So one person, a designee, can start working with that candidate, and you can do it immediately. Of course, that contract has to come back to the board for review and approval. If that's the case, I would cross out committee or and just put board designee begins negotiations, one person, and I would take out the time to be determined special meeting if it's a committee. Most of our members have that in place so that contracts being developed sort of parallel to the search process. And that way, you're not feeling pressed in the middle of March to find a starting point and what's fair and that kind of thing.
Just so I understand, so what you're suggesting, if we do like a subcommittee of the board, that subcommittee would start to meet, to like look at the contract, while the interviews are going, so that when we do offer, then we're, okay.
You could meet in January and February. It could be, you had the luxury of time to spend a month or two or more kind of hammering out a contract that feels right to the district, that maybe your legal counsel has looked at and approved. HR can be involved. Yeah.
Or we can do this, keep it authority to the chair and we can do it like we did last time.
Yes, you can ask the chair to do a lot of that.
But a designee doesn't have to, it should be a board member. is
Yes.
what we're saying. There should be a
Yes.
board member, when we say designee, it's a board member.
Yes.
So it's not like we pick somebody in the community or we're
It's
picking.
not like the HR
Rick
director.
or right.
Yeah.
Right. It should be a board member, however, very often the HR director and counsel, the three of them.
Yeah, we do that.
But then when you meet, you can talk to that candidate, that night or the next morning, and you don't have to worry about the 3 days posting requirement because it's just one board member that's involved.
But that does not negate like the subcommittee meeting prior to that.
Not at all.
And then, so of that subcommittee, we would create a designee, and so does that make sense? So like, there's three of, my understanding of quorum means, right, there's three, so a subcommittee would be three. Two or three, to have, to start the work on the contract. And then when we get closer to actually offering a position, we would take one of those 2 to 3 people to be the designee.
Or you could bring it back, I'm
The way
sorry.
I understand is we have two options. One, subcommittee, the other one is we give authorization to someone in the board. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, I mean, my hope would be that by the time we get to that point, we've all been very engaged and it would, I just don't think we need more special meetings,
Right.
quite honestly, to be able to do this. So I would vote, well, we're not voting, but I would advocate that we just designate.
And have a subcommittee that meets
Yeah.
in
Yes,
advance.
in advance,
Yeah,
but
but just so
not
like, I just, I want to be
January.
clear that that's what I was talking about. So that there are multiple people involved, getting what you said, guardrails, getting like a contract kind of framed, and then the designee does the actual negotiating in the moment.
Correct. And I would still suggest that subcommittee brings back the proposed contract to the full board for you to review and say, yes, we do agree with this, or this clause gives me pause. And then once you agree to it as a full board, then the designee, and it doesn't have to be a member of the subcommittee. It very often the subcommittee are board members and the designee might be the chair. That is real often, or I had an attorney on a board one time that wanted to be the designee because they really loved contracts. It could certainly be someone who's on the subcommittee already because they're probably more familiar with the contract and all the language and everything.
Or we could just put our newbies on there and say.
You could do that.
Welcome to.
You could do that. So am I hearing that I could edit
What
this
you're
to
hearing.
say
Yeah.
board designee begins negotiations?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's what
I think I didn't understand fully. So we have to do committee, then subcommittee, then subcommittee, and we have to do also designated, or
Correct.
without subcommittee, we can do designated.
You can do a designee. So then the full board would need to talk about the contract and hash out how much are we willing to pay, how many days of holiday can we, the full board would need to do that before you have one person go negotiate
In a full open meeting.
in a full open meeting, because it's a full board meeting. It's
Right.
quicker if you do it in a subcommittee. I would still recommend you post it in case people are curious to listen to you hammer out the details of a contract. And you could definitely include your HR director and your counsel in that group. That's very, very common as well. It's a group of 5 maybe sometimes, so whatever works for your district. Okay,
People okay with that?
okay.
All right.
So that's, currently says March to be determined, but it would be the day after, immediately, round 2. And then hopefully you could approve the employment contract also in March, but that depends where you go.
Right.
So that was an overview of the whole process. I'm going to turn it back over to Ann now and see if you can arrive at some conclusions about when you can meet for these days and the times as well.
Yes, so to start, first yellow in February 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, for a 90 to 120 minute meeting. We have one board member who has a conflict on the 6th. Are there other conflicts that week that are irreconcilable?
Do we have anybody looking at the school board, the school calendar?
I was.
Okay. There's nothing conferences or anything.
It doesn't have like the individual conferences of schools on the district calendar though. I mean, I can go,
No, I don't think we need to go that,
but no, I don't see any conflict that week.
Why does your first start?
The 5th
I'll
is
probably do
starred because,
Okay.
Barb, what's the asterisk on the 5th for?
We would need to have it during the day, and I need to be on the road by 3 o'clock.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
that's right.
okay.
And that was, I didn't really, that wasn't good about that.
I can see why.
6th. I'll just share too that there are 3 of the dates on here, on this list are intermediate District 287 board meetings. And so I would not like to pick all of them. I wouldn't want to miss all of them. And the 8th is one of them. So I
How
would,
about 7?
the 7th, if folks work,
gonna mess with presentation
that's a
that day, but-
Wednesday.
That's fine.
And you said an hour and a half to 2 hours?
Yep.
It's fine.
February
7th?
7th.
Is there any chance we could start it at 7 o'clock that night instead of
Start
6:30?
at 7. I'm getting
That's
thumbs up from
the-
over there.
Okay.
7 p.m. is that okay?
On Wednesday, the 7th? Okay. 7th at 7 p.m. Great, thank you.
Okay.
So how long is it gonna last?
Hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay.
All right, now we scooch down to the meeting to determine finalists in February the 28th, 21, 22, 23, 28. I have another 287 on the 22nd. But I have I didn't hear any other conflicts from those folks over there. How about?
No, I don't have no conflict, but can we wait the new board to decide that day because they are on the board too?
We got their dates from them.
Only
Yeah,
that?
yeah, they both shared their.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
You're ahead.
Yep.
Thank you.
Also, they're giving me thumbs ups from that. Any other
Which day?
dates?
Sorry, what were the?
20, 21, 22, 23, or 28. So that's like
Oh, I would really
Tuesday,
like to do
Wednesday,
the
Thursday, Friday, and then what's the 28th? The Wednesday.
The 28th is a Wednesday. That would be terrible for me.
The 28th?
Yeah, I could do it, but I just don't want, because we have a board meeting the 27th, and I have parent-teacher conferences, Thursday and Friday, so.
I do think that we would want to do it the week before anyway, just to kind of get a little bit more space to get in, like in between the next 2 rounds, so we're not like just totally jamming everything. So
Yeah, the week of the
20,
20th.
21,
We don't have President's Day off, do we?
3.
Yep, we do.
Yep.
We do.
That's the 19th.
So that's the 19th, and just in terms of whatever collating materials, or
Yep.
doing anything. But
I'm open 21 and 22. But
I'm open all.
Wednesdays tend to be light on the
Okay.
school calendars, so that is sometimes helpful.
okay.
That would be the 21st Wednesday.
And Eastern Carver County maybe, so.
And this is to determine the finalists and
Yep.
the interview questions, and how long might this be?
30 minutes to 2 hours is what I wrote down.
Well, I wrote 1
What-
to 1.5 hours.
What time?
30 is
That was
pretty
for the-
ambitious.
It is.
Just for
I
the,
wrote down exactly what Barb said. and she
Yes.
said it could be as quick as 30 minutes, or if we
long as
want
2
to
hours.
deliberate more, it could be 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that's what she said.
So what time on the 21st? 6:30?
I don't know. What time?
Is there ever possibility of doing
I'm
things
sorry,
like
I thought we
earlier?
were on the meeting, but this is just the.
It's just hard.
earlier, can we do earlier on the 21st?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The whole day is open for me on the 21st.
Okay.
All day.
What's the earliest? I know
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Okay.
6 p.m.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, 21st at 6?
is the Wednesday,
Yep.
right?
Okay, I'm going to circle back to that after you've chosen your interview dates, because for example, if you pick March 14th, that's a long time between selecting your finalists
Sure.
and interviewing them.
Okay.
So in that case, that's probably too long. There's lots of mischief that
Okay.
can happen once you name your finalists.
So for the next one, we're looking at 2 days in a row, or?
Probably, there's a lot of interest in this, so I think you're gonna have some very strong candidates. You might end up interviewing 5, 6, or 7.
Okay.
Unless you can block out an entire day from 10 in the morning till 8 at night, or noon until 10 at night, then you could do them all in one day, with some breaks in between for snacks and stretching and walks and stuff, so you don't get exhausted. Otherwise, it's 2 days, starting anytime you want through the evening. Also consider with interviews that they're open meetings, and you may want folks to come and watch them. We will recommend you not live stream the interviews, because you don't want the most prepared person, you want the best person. So we'll want to communicate that if that's a decision the board makes. And so sometimes school boards will push interviews back to start after contract hours, so people can come in and sit down and watch it since you're not live streaming, if that's what you choose. Or you can just go all day, and whoever can make it to watch can make it to watch, and no one else has a chance, so.
So just to go back, you don't, so if we do it on the 21st, your recommendation is to do the interviews within the next week?
Within a week and a half or so.
Okay.
So the 28th, 29th, or like the 4th and 5th. But the 5th is an asterisk day because it's the presidential primary. So we'd have to do that one during the day.
You'd have to be done before 6 o'clock. You could adjourn and start again after 8. You just can't do anything between 6 and 8.
And
Do folks have, do folks have opinions on like taking a full day or like even like,
Which day is that?
well, just before we even decide what day, taking a full day versus doing like 2 evenings.
Is it consecutive?
You'd rather take a full day? Other people have thoughts?
So I'm kind of answering your question in 2 folds, but one, I sort of have a conflict with the 5th, so if we were looking at doing something for a
Okay.
full day, that might work best to do a full day, and I probably have the flexibility to do that overall, but I just want to put out there that I know that like right now, the 5th through 6th is sort of whatever, but the 5th is
The 5th during the day?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that plan to be out of town,
Okay.
and that's Amos D Day at the Capitol.
Oh, sure,
as well, too.
okay.
Which day is it?
Virginia, what's your thought on?
Yeah, I can do a full day. I just have to know last of the days.
We would only do, this would be the only one that we would do.
Correct.
Like, that would require that much time.
Right.
So.
The
this
only
would be
challenge
one day.
That day is if you need to be done by 6 p.m.
And
Well, I think
depends how long-
I think the 5th
Okay,
is out
5th is
anyway.
out, okay, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, your deliberations might take a while, or they
Yeah.
might not, so,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Okay. The 7th isn't even on there, I don't think, but the 7th would be out for me.
So,
Okay,
And-
so how about the 28th and 29th?
and you just said
February.
you have conferences or something, Virginia?
I have conferences on the 29th. Could we look at March 1st?
March 1st. Yep, let's look at,
Oh, I might be a little bit dead-eyed when I come, but that's okay. Nobody will mind.
so that is a Friday.
Thursday.
Oh, it's Friday, right?
Friday?
That's Friday.
March 1? Oh, I'm sorry. The wrong one?
Friday, March 1st.
And if that doesn't work for people and we have to do it on the 28th, I could do it on the 28th.
I don't have my work calendar to just verify I'm not missing something major, but March 1st would probably be, Friday, being a Friday would probably be easy.
Friday, March 1st.
I'm sorry, I forgot about you guys. I'm sorry.
Would the 4th not work? I mean, I couldn't make it happen, but I go to that store once a week on Friday.
Oh, okay. Monday, March 4th.
And so when we say all day, we're saying like 8 o'clock to 5?
It depends if you can go into the early evening or not.
Sure.
If you have 6 people, you could start at 9, 10:15, 12:15, you can take a break. Start up again at 1 for your 4th interview, 2:15, 3:30, and 4:30. 4:30 you'd be done. You could start deliberations, right? With 6 people. You could start at 9 a.m. and at 4:30 take a half-hour break so we can compile some of the results that you've given us in terms of ratings and rankings. You could start deliberations like at 5. So if you start at 9, you could be done probably by 6, 9 to 6, with 6 interviews. If you have more, it'll be a little.
earlier?
You absolutely could.
Me too, I only live at like a block away.
Okay.
Okay,
7:30 or 8?
March 4th, we're talking about March 4th, 8 a.m. Hakeem, is that,
No.
that's a no? Is there another date in that,
I mean, the whole day thing is
the all-day thing is not,
working for me.
okay. So for any of those dates? Okay. So let's go back to 2 nights in a row, is that
Yeah.
preferable? Okay.
If we're doing, if we're splitting it, then I can do that Friday.
Okay.
I just didn't take a full day for that Friday.
Okay. So can we look at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the 20th, 29th, and 1st?
Would folks have any ability to do like a 2 to 5:30, 2 to 5:30 versus like 6 to 9, 2 9? It's just those hours are
Yeah,
just.
I think 2 to 5 when they did it.
2 o'clock? Is that?
It's a 5 we can do it.
Is it would that?
I don't know. What's,
Both of those days?
No, I'm not saying which day specifically. Just like or even just one of the days
Yeah.
to not be like 6 to 9:30 would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
But Virginia, is that doable for you to be in this area?
Yeah,
at 2 o'clock?
Okay. So let's go back to 28, 20, 29, and March 1st.
The 29th I can't.
Not the 29th. Okay. Can we have a day in the middle?
Sure.
Okay. So can I propose the 28th and the 1st? I'm hearing no objections.
So,
Which one would be
I know
good?
it's gonna be a lot for a couple of weeks, and then we'll be done, and it's gonna be fantastic.
so we're saying 2 to 5:30 on a Friday, March 1st.
the first one should be earlier. The second one late.
Would we rather do evening on Friday or afternoon on Friday? If we do a Friday
Afternoon.
afternoon,
Doesn't matter.
afternoon.
So we have Friday. What other day we have?
So the 28th, Wednesday. So how about
Okay.
Wednesday evening, Friday afternoon?
Although you're saying we have a board meeting the 27th.
27th,
We have a
yeah.
board meeting the 27th.
No, we don't, right? That's the caucus.
No, you just said it's March 5th.
No, that's the presidential primary. They're in
Precinct
consecutive
caucus day is February 27th, and you
Yeah.
cannot meet after 6
So
p.m.
we won't have a meeting on the 27th.
Oh, then fine.
Unless you're done before 6.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Okay, but yeah.
Okay, so I'm suggesting the 28th in the evening and the 1st in the afternoon.
Can we start at 5
On the 20th.
on the 28th?
5 p.m. on the 28th. Going once, going twice, okay.
I think so.
5 p.m.
So then-
Yeah,
Great,
we could-
and then did we say at 2 o'clock? Is that 2 o'clock start
or
on
1
Friday?
o'clock. I don't know. I mean, what works for you, Abdi Hakim?
Yeah, what's the
What's
yeah,
the earliest
What's
you
the
could
earliest
start?
you can?
Oh, Friday's okay. I can do it.
2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, what's best?
It's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, all right,
Yeah, after Friday prayer.
okay.
1 o'clock.
2 o'clock on Friday, March 1st. And we got one more.
So that gives you 1 week between naming your finalists and interviewing, which is a really nice
Perfect.
7 days. It's long enough, but not too long.
And then what would be your recommendation for how long for the next gap?
At least 3 or 4 days, but no more than a week, week and a half. A week is ideal or less.
So that's tricky though, because the only dates are March 4th and 5th. Is that would be within that
Oh,
kind of thing you're
You're right.
saying? Is it's too much to push it out to like the week of the 13th?
you certainly can do that. You certainly can do that. The only concern we have is between round 1 and round 2, some people make it their life's mission to dig up social media posts over the last 25 years for every one of your finalists. The longer you give them, the more opportunity for mischief. It doesn't mean you can't do it. If you pushed round one back a little bit, you could do it the week of the 13th, 14th, 15th, 18th, or 19th. Did the 11th or
If you push it back, do you mean?
11th, 13th, or 14th for round one, and then 18 or 19 for round two?
Oh, I got it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you could name your finalists potentially at 5 p.m. on the 28th instead of the 21st. If you just pushed, there's sort of this cascading thing that happens
Right.
with this calendar. I apologize, because you never quite know what people's holiday plans are or travel plans are. So we give these big windows, and sometimes they don't line up as well as we'd like right away.
Think about spring break, I don't know when there's spring.
Oh, it's
Spring
at the
break
end of
is-
March.
Okay.
April 1 to
No, it's
5.
the first.
Oh, first week in
of
April, that's right.
April 1
My
to
spring
5.
break is the last week
Right.
of March.
So we're good on that.
What we tried to do with the calendar, having the second round by the 19th at the latest, is to anticipate candidates being out of town for spring breaks that
Right.
start the following week. Because a lot of districts in the metro have spring break the 25th to the 29th. You too, okay, that's yours. So we're trying to get your search wrapped up before those spring breaks.
4th or 5th, is it the day?
I have a conflict on the 5th.
But do you have a conflict on the 6th?
We can do 4.
I do.
I don't think we
Even-
have the 6th from these folks.
Yeah.
No, I'll look it up here real quick. March 6th is a possibility. I would not be here. I'm committed to another district that night, but you perhaps could, or Craig could. We have a team of 3, which is really nice, so we can.
Yeah, I'm open on the 6th.
It's not really good for me.
I want Barb here.
Okay.
She's been with us. She's
Since
got
the
to see us
beginning.
through.
So the 6th I am committed up.
Okay, the 4th, is that too
Just
soon?
read, somebody said they had a conflict.
Oh, somebody had the conflict on the 4th, Monday the 4th?
No,
What about the 7th?
if we were doing all day.
I'll be hacking, you said you had a conflict on the 4th.
You say all day though, right?
Oh, no, this would be,
March 4, right?
March,
Only 2 or
Yes.
3 people at this point.
2 or 3
2
people.
or 3 people. So you could start late afternoon and you'll be done.
Yeah, we can, okay.
Yep.
I'm okay, late afternoon. Monday, right? It's Monday.
So we were doing
Is
March,
the 7th
we could do
on
March 4th and
Okay.
February.
You could just
I
say
have-
it.
I have parent teacher conference.
The 11th?
So March 4.
Yeah, well, then
Is the
we
11th
have a
too
board
far
meeting
out?
the 12th.
You said 1 week, so the 11th, it feels like if we
Yeah, it's only
had,
10 days.
if we had our,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
if we had, so we're doing interviews, the first round, finishing up first round on Friday the 1st. Then what was wrong with the week of the 11th? Oh, you don't have any.
The 11th, I am up north on that Monday night with another district, but I am available on 12th. No meetings per statute on March 12th.
We have a board
Township
meeting
election
on the
day.
12th, but
Okay.
13, 14, 15?
Yes, those all work for me. 13, 14, or 15.
Yes.
No, it's
Is it
just so
evening?
hard to like have like multiple nights in a week where we're here those evening hours when you have small children that need assistance going to bed.
But we can start in the afternoon of the 13th, 14th, or 15th?
I just want to be clear what dates for what round are we talking about?
For
Round 2.
round 2,
Mhm.
can we look at the 13th, Wednesday the 13th? Okay, and then starting, what would be like the total time we would want to set aside?
Well, if you do 1-hour interviews versus an hour and a half interviews, if you started at 3 or 4, if your deliberations about selecting your lone finalists take an hour or so, you could be done by 9:30, 9:30.
Okay.
You just never know. We had one
That's
board
gonna be
that
the-
tried 5 hours to come to agreement on a final candidate, and they
Yep.
couldn't.
That's
So at
what
midnight, they
happened.
just called a recess. So it depends.
That's what happened too, so we were there along. Okay, but it, okay, so, but that's the big one, that's
Or
it
there might be
then.
one person that
We
is
just need to
without
be
question
committed
the
to that
best.
one, and then, you know,
Might take you
that's,
15 minutes.
that's the big one.
Yeah,
So,
it's tough.
Yep, so. Going once, going
So,
twice.
okay.
Wait, where are we going? What's it
The
twice?
Wednesday, the 13th, starting at like a 3 p.m.
Can we go back to the prior week? Is
Yep.
that possible? Because we don't have any other meetings that prior week, right?
I know, but Colin has a conflict the 5th and the
5th
6th, and Abdi Hakim said he had a conflict on the 4th.
No, I'm okay for.
Oh,
I'm okay for, but you guys say the
Oh.
whole day, that's the issue.
then, I mean, it's just a very
oh.
fast turnaround
Okay,
time
so-
on the 4th.
The 4th,
Oh, right, because we're doing interviews on the first.
Yeah,
is that too fast?
And you're
March
not
4th is
available the
okay.
7th.
What would you think of round 1 on the 13th and 14th of March?
15, 14.
And round 2, the 18th or 19th, the following week? Are the 13th and 14th open
It's just-
for you?
It's just because we have another board meeting that week. It just becomes
Okay.
really difficult because I have little kids. and
Yep.
So then it's very hard for me to be here 3
Sure.
nights in a row.
Unless on the 13th and 14th, you could do the 2 to 5
Right.
afternoon interviews that day. Or 2 to 5:30 on the first
I
day.
can do 2 to 5. I just need advance warning.
13th, 14th.
I agree the 4th is too fast of a turnaround
Okay.
time if we're just, don't you think?
Yep, I do.
To give people notice.
Yep.
And there's no times later that week because we have conflicts, so.
Right. Okay, so now we're talking about pushing first round to 13th, 14th,
And round 2 to 18 or 19.
and round
Just
2
one
to
of
18 or
those.
19. And we're talking about doing them in the 2 p.m.
Range.
California Coast? California Coast, you know?
Can we do?
What's
Oh,
that?
I don't think the 19th
That was your
would
picture.
be, the 18th or 19th would be an evening. I don't think that,
Oh,
that would be that on the 13th.
Yep.
That would be the first round on the 13th.
Can we do 3 o'clock?
Okay.
3:30?
What?
You
Is
see
that-
2,
is that-
can we do 3:30?
oh,
13 and 14?
what was the,
Is the week of the 11th the one, is that the one that has a board meeting?
Yeah.
12. Is the 13th for the second interview, is that out?
I think we should, let's just do that. It's just gonna be really
we'll send next over.
Okay. Yeah, let's just stick with what we had and we'll just do the 13th and it'll be fine.
So,
Would the 14th be better?
I don't know.
To have like a break?
Honestly, I don't know.
so wait, are you talking about the 13th being the final
The
round?
final one.
Okay, so,
I would rather do that than have 3 meetings
Okay.
in 1 week, honestly.
Okay.
I don't think that that's
all right, so
tenable.
where we're at is keeping the first round on the 28th and the 1st, one in the evening, one starting at 2. And then on the 13th,
We can start at 3:30.
is that too early for you?
I should have accumulated more PTO by then.
What time would
Get
work?
off at 5:30, and then it'll take me about 30 minutes to get here, and if there's no, probably more, so.
Can we write a note for you?
Yeah.
That says,
Okay.
yes,
My board doctor.
Okay.
So that'll be it then, that'll be it. So can we do like a 3:30? Okay, is that,
So, wait, so, okay, let's recap for this.
I'm gonna recap.
Okay.
I'm gonna recap. Right now, I'm gonna recap this one, which is, we're saying second round, March 13th, 3:30 p.m.
Okay,
Which should get us out of here
Oh,
before
yes.
my bedtime.
yes. I'm going to read it back to you real quickly to make sure that my notes are correct.
Yes,
So I can
thank
update this
you.
when I get back. The first meeting for interview training and stakeholder report, February 7th at 7 p.m. Determining finalists, etc., February 21st at 6 p.m. Round 1, February 28th at 5 and March 1st at 2. Round 2, March 13 at 3:30 p.m. You got it too?
I will do everything in my
Okay.
power to make that a short board meeting on the 12th.
Okay.
For real, we will do that.
So March 12th, the board designee would begin negotiations. Do you have a regular board meeting scheduled yet for March where you might know when the employment contract could possibly be approved?
Should be the 26th.
26.
26th? Okay. And that's a
Question?
regular.
This is just a hypothetical. On the 26th, when we are approving the contract, does every single board member have to be here?
Only if the candidate is related to one of you and you need a unanimous vote. If the candidate's
Anyone
not
have
related to a board
superintendent
member.
Candidate in their family.
No, not
Well, I've been
maybe.
waiting to this moment.
Oh, 'cause it's your break, it's your break.
Yeah,
Okay.
but who knows? We'll just, you know what, I don't need a break.
You need a break. We will be.
To approve the contract, there are boards that call a special meeting for 7:30 in the morning and 4 of them can make it and they approve the contract. It's a rubber stamp sort of thing at that point for some boards.
I was gonna say, if I'm a part of the subcommittee, then I'll just already
Right.
have input on it.
Perfect.
Correct. Okay, thank you. That is the worst part of this
That was
process.
really bad.
Both of you, Celia, Taylor, thank you very much. It's the hardest part of the process tonight. So I will make all of those changes and get it to you to look at one more time before it goes final.
And Barb, I'm taking we want this to stick, but if something comes up, if we have a snow date, we're gonna have to do things.
Absolutely.
We're gonna have to change some things potentially anyways, but this is giving our best effort to get to the public for all of us to accommodate and all of us.
Correct.
So.
And I promise it'll be worth the investment in time.
Yes.
And we will have someone before spring break.
That was the driving force for the calendar like this.
Yeah.
So
Should I wait for a date to get a sub? Should I wait for 2 days before I get my sub, or can I just go ahead and line up my sub now?
all of these dates will be in the vacancy brochure, and I am 99% sure we'll have them on these dates. The only thing that'll change is the weather.
Okay, but that's like a
Yes.
thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so then I'm going to take the time off tomorrow, so that it's.
Candidates will circle these dates. They'll circle February 28th, March 1st, and March
Oh,
13th.
kind of like
They'll make sure that they are available on those dates if they really want this job. So I think board members obviously should count on it as well. Well done, that's tough, and thank you, Ann, for facilitating that. Okay, moving on. Vacancy brochure. A couple of things on here. Obviously, the application deadline at the top of page 1, search timeline on the bottom, will be filled in now that we have the dates solidified. So we'll get that done. We'll pull the word draft off. I want to thank you, communications team, for all of the points of pride that they sent us. Phenomenal things going on in St. Louis Park Public Schools. So thank you, Ashley and Rachel. When you look at this, is there anything when you look through it that is missing? This information is not intended to talk someone into applying. It's meant to pique their interest. They'll look at this, they'll go, and they'll go to your website, they'll go to MDE's website, they'll talk to people. It's a sales sheet, basically, to tell the story of St. Louis Park Public Schools.
So are we talking about the leadership profile separately, or is that?
We'll get through it all, yep, we'll talk about that as well.
So are you talking about just basically about the school profile and the community profile?
Yep, front page, anything missing, hopefully there's no typos, but occasionally one slips past us.
I usually find them, I did not, but may I ask just a curiosity question? Would it be, so for the diversity and inclusion, we have strong commitment to equity and anti-racism. Do we have our strategic plan and mission, I don't see it on here, is it on the back?
The mission statement is there,
Where is the mission? Not seen.
bottom of page 2.
Yeah.
In a big box somewhere.
Oh, that's the leadership profile.
Mission
Oh,
statement.
yeah, I know, but I
Would
didn't, I
these be
thought,
together?
are they
Like,
together?
would these be seen together?
This is a 3-page document.
Oh, okay, so.
It's electronically and it's 1, 2, 3. It's a
Got it.
PDF. So yes.
And then, I guess I don't see student voice here, and that is something that we really believe in as far as like the youth data interns. We have a high school principal advisory committee, and we've had an advisory committee in the past for our superintendent. I guess that would be up to the new superintendent to decide if they want. But an idea of how we center a lot of student voices, I don't know. We have academic opportunities, and I feel like that would be, I think that our youth data interns, as a person who's in education, is unique to St. Louis Park, and I'm particularly proud of that.
Absolutely. And would that be something that you'd want to put in, what keeps families in St. Louis Park Public Schools,
Yeah.
or on the left, the points of pride?
But I don't know, whichever.
Wherever it fits.
Wherever it fits, because there's a lot of bullet points.
There are. Is there anything, if we add that, and who could send me the verbiage? It needs to be about
I mean-
2 lines.
I mean, my understanding is when we say stakeholders, that students, that includes everything, students, parents.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So so this is to add to the school profile, to add something about.
Yeah, the front page is simply meant to, what's most exciting to you? What are you most proud of in this district? And if I add some things, which I'm more than happy to do that, I might need to pull some things.
Right.
So what would I pull to make room for the addition that Virginia suggested?
What does S 2021 mean? Does that mean
That's is that school year 2021 or something like
S
that?
2021?
It should be SY, I think, school year 2021.
Okay. Thank you.
How important are the solar panels to attracting? I don't not mean to mock that because
No.
it was as a person. It was important to me that we have a sustainable, as a part of our referendum, that we were thinking about the climate. But I don't know if it's like something that's going to really draw superintendent to us as the solar panels.
Right.
I think a lot would assume that they're there because so many have them now, so I don't think it's gonna be a thing
But
that would go,
I
boy, I wanna go there for that.
Okay, that's helpful. And but I agree. I think it's like the youth data analyst program in particular, a lot of folks have seen those kids present at various conferences and things like that. I actually think that is a huge point of pride. So.
And Barb, you asked who could give you that verbiage, and I have no idea other than
We'll
to
work
big.
that out, Barb.
Big
Ashley's on
Thank you,
it.
Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley.
The other way that you can gain some space, I'm all about plain language and explaining things, but I don't know if we have to explain what STEAM means in this situation, that we probably lose that, and you gain 3 lines there.
Yep.
Where? Which one?
Oh,
The
STEAM.
big bullet there that says robust elementary, and
Right.
I think we could.
The superintendent candidate doesn't know what
STEAM
STEAM
means.
means.
Everybody in education knows what STEAM means.
So everything in
I mean, if you're
parentheses can
education,
come out.
you know what it is.
Yeah.
I think
If
so.
you are outside of education, but I
But
think,
as a plain language person, for
I
people
know,
who.
but-
I
But in
do
this
see-
case, I think
yep,
you're right.
yep, when we have-
Human development is different. I
Yeah.
hadn't seen that in other districts, that that's part of the
Yeah.
STEAM programming. That's unique.
Yeah.
STEAM is, but the human development was something we hadn't seen
We
before.
can make sure the website mentions human development, right, we can put some theme stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so that does pull out an extra 2 lines.
Yeah.
what is it, I mean, my understanding of the IB curriculum at the elementary schools is that it's connected to STEAM. I don't have any,
Right.
so, like the IB curriculum leans into
Yeah.
STEAM.
I have one that kind of crosses, I think it could probably be more about the community profile, so I can wait to that if we want me to, but, do you want me to articulate?
Well, just mention it now and we'll figure out where
Okay,
it fits.
because in the school profile, we talk about 49 different languages. In the community profile, we say there's 50,000 diverse individuals, but something about that didn't really speak to me in terms of like, we have a strong Somali population, or we have a strong Jewish population, or something. Like, it gets hard when you try to break down some of those, but
Right.
I would be interested to see if we can elevate some of our at least higher profile communities in here. So, and one of the ways that I thought we could do that, and maybe it's really appealing for superintendents to know that there's an aquatic park, but I thought maybe the aquatic park bullet could go if we needed to find space to talk about something like that on the community profile. And you could put swimming up at the top or you could put it in that bullet about all the different activities that we have in our community, so.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think you know what.
What's that?
We have CSI, right? Oh, we have CSI, right?
We have what?
Give it to Rachel and Ashley and they.
It says
College and
College in the schools?
in the schools, we have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's not in here either?
I don't see it.
Okay.
I wanna add CIS.
Yep. I think, Colin, to your point, that would fit really nicely in about the community.
Yeah.
So let's wordsmith that when we
Yeah.
get there. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Thank you.
Can we add on page 1, under diversity and inclusion, LGBTQ plus inclusion?
Yes.
So in equity, anti-racism, and,
Diversity and inclusion, strong commitment to equity,
equity,
Comma.
comma, anti-racism, comma,
comma,
and unless you're not an Oxford comma person. I am.
I am too.
And LGBTQ plus inclusion.
LGBTQ plus inclusion. Great, thank you. So diversity inclusion, strong commitment to equity, comma, anti-racism, comma, and LGBTQ plus inclusion.
Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Abdi Hakim was mentioning that CIS is not mentioned as a point of pride for the district, college and the schools.
So we actually don't have that many CIS classes because CIS is run through the University of Minnesota. What we have are concurrent enrollment classes. So I don't know if you wanted to somehow say just concurrent enrollment, because technically CIS would be considered a concurrent enrollment class.
Okay.
You could certainly say concurrent enrollment.
Okay, I can take out the word program after the band and orchestra, 4th and 5th grade band and orchestra, and I have a whole new line there I could use for concurrent enrollment opportunities.
So concurrent enrollment, I need to be schooled in that just a little bit more about like how much that differentiates us from other schools, or how common it is. Is it pretty common in most schools?
Yeah, but I mean, it's how do I say this? And maybe y'all know more than I do. It's becoming more common. It just depends on what you have. It is a part of our college and career readiness program.
And that's where I was almost like in with the CNA program and stuff. I was like, would that be a better thing to profile
Important
some
is
of
this.
us?
Because it's different.
In outstate, it's a really big deal, but is it a big
I mean,
deal in the metro?
So Barb, maybe this would work. So as a point of academic opportunities, it's like a separate little bullet point, which is college and career opportunities, which include EP, IB, concurrent enrollment, CNA. I mean, there's a lot. And it is a point of pride for St. Louis Park, again, going back to our youth data interns. People are looking at our programs and trying to figure out how they can do it. Concurrent enrollment can be with different universities. So like we have concurrent enrollment with, I think, North Hennepin, with Minneapolis Community College. So it just kind of depends. It also really depends on the certification of the teacher. So for example, Abby's trying to get her MBA so that she can teach accounting, and they can get concurrent enrollment in Minneapolis Community College. So I might, Abby, if you're listening, I apologize if I just totally messed that up. I know you're getting your MBA. I don't remember which university or community college that would help get the concurrent enrollment. But
And I just was thinking something like our CNA program, was it not the first in the area or first?
I don't know.
yeah,
Like,
it is.
But, and so I just like, that's a point of pride and
Do you
does
know
that distinguish
CNA?
us a little bit more in terms
Something
of
that's
like
different.
being kind of different, right?
If other
This is
districts
what-
can say it, it's probably not worth saying it.
Right.
But if it's
So
unique to you, you should say
It's
it.
the certified nursing assistant.
Do we have
And
another one that's like that too? Is there another one that we do training in the schools or get? It was like,
We are
there was
working
lifeguarding.
we're working on
Okay,
that.
okay.
So would a separate bullet point be certified nursing assistant program? Just one bullet that says that?
Well, it's all kind of under the umbrella of college and career readiness.
Yeah.
It's a robust program, and it's also like, because there's a lot of community involvement in it too. They're local, we have commitments from local companies who are willing to partner with the school. So I don't know how you would want to.
I mean, I'm wondering if it's college and career readiness, including one of the first CNA programs, you know.
There we
if
go.
We can just kind of make it,
Including one, yeah.
you know, and we might not hit everything, but if it's a
Yeah.
point of distinction to do something like
But
that.
I would agree with you, the CNA, now I see your point. The CNA is unique to St. Louis Park. Concurrent enrollment is not necessarily unique, and most schools are going in
Yeah,
that direction.
yeah.
So if the bullet said college and career readiness opportunities, including certified nursing assistant program.
Yeah.
And IB, but there's a separate here about, there's a
No,
international
I think
baccalaureate.
you got it,
That's
you got
separate.
it.
Okay, so I'm
I
gonna,
think we can take PSA.
college and career readiness opportunities, including certified nursing assistant program. Okay, and I'm adding a Y to school year 2021. I'm removing all the
it's just
parentheses after STEAM.
semantics.
I might pull
Everybody has
program
something,
after
right?
orchestra. If there's room, I'll leave in the solar panels. If there's not, I'll pull that last bullet. So we're good?
Is it okay to talk about like the other pages, or are we only on the first?
I just want to make sure you're done with the first page.
Oh, yes.
Are we done with the edits there?
Yes.
Great. All right, thank you very much. And again, I'll get a final to you to review as well. So the leadership profile I want to talk about just for a moment. This came from, if you go 2 pages back, this is the results of the survey. Okay, and the 2 new board members participated and took this as well. It was really wonderful to see the alignment amongst board members. You had a lot that rose to the top with 4, 5, 6, or 7 or 8 votes, which was tremendous. From that, we build a leadership profile that's a lot more words. And so I wanted you to look at that. You can certainly change things you feel doesn't sound like you. But we wanted to have you take a look at this and tell me if it fits St. Louis Park or we should make some changes. And this is what candidates obviously will hold themselves up against when deciding if they fit, when they know what you're looking for.
I have it possibly, so the 4th bullet point that says models the highest degree of moral, professional, ethical behaviors and high standards of integrity across the district and creates a safe environment for students and staff. The only thing that I think is sort of measurable is that last clause, creates a safe environment for students and staff, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't most people going to present themselves with a high degree of moral, professional, and ethical? How do we even ask to get to that? Like, isn't that coming from maybe a letter of recommendation? Or how do we get to the answer to that question?
That's a tough one, because what we've found is that you're creating a profile of the ideal candidate. And if someone reads this and says, oh, there's something in my background that if they find out about it, they're not going to want to interview me.
Okay, well, that's fair.
It's kind of what I call the well duh clause, honest and it has integrity. Well, duh, if you're a superintendent, I'm being facetious, but obviously you want them to have honesty and have integrity. And yet by placing it in there as a priority for the board, people will think twice if they haven't always measured up to that. It is definitely a nuance. It's not something you can say, prove it.
So it's a little bit like, because I was just thinking about the professional licensing and standards board and just how BOSA has similar standards for superintendents and things like that. So I'm like, they are the ones that kind of, but now I understand, so that makes sense to keep it there. So I'm very comfortable keeping it there.
Okay.
I had a hard time like figuring out how to move this up here, but and Virginia touched on it a little bit earlier, but like it wasn't until you get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 7th bullet that we talked about student-centered decisions. And I took that as like something that we've been really proud of in the past, is how much we've really put a focus on that, but I don't know how to move it up higher. So I don't because so much of what we talk about, and maybe it's something like the bullet that Virginia just pointed out, maybe that one moves down a little bit, but so many of the bullets up at the top are about so much of our anti-racism work and other things that I think we do need to profile. So I'm a little careful, but I do know that student-centered decisions really seems to have been a driving force for us. So I felt like it kind of got buried being down there.
That's a great point. This is your brochure. You tell
Yeah.
me what you would like to do with it and I will do it.
I mean, and I'm a communications person, but like I also understand the struggle of trying to figure out where sometimes, especially when we're in the team committee, but,
I mean, this is, I just want to add, and it's very important, as a immigrants, marginalized community, I want superintendent to take serious those, it's not necessarily those who, loud voice to be heard. So like including the board, I want superintendent who treats all board members equally. Listen to them, follow them. I have been experienced since I was in this country, people, not taking serious to me when I raise something. So that's like it's not only me, like it's all the community, regardless their race, color, gender, and that's like, so like we have a lot of beautiful words here, but it's just words in the paper if we don't follow up. So I want someone serious who listen to the community, follow up them, and treat everybody equal.
You're absolutely right. I love what you said. These are beautiful words on the paper, but they don't mean anything if someone doesn't take it seriously and actually bring this to life. And that would be the goal, to find a candidate that can do this for you and bring it to life. So is there a place that you would want us to include specifically immigrant and refugee
You can use
populations?
anyone you want, because I'm seeing so many points you can add those things.
We say diverse populations and cultures. We could specifically say including immigrant and refugee families and students, or we could leave it diverse populations and cultures without specifying anymore.
I mean, I've become a fan of
I mean, immigrants,
calling out
LGBT community,
Yeah,
I mean, all the communities.
We were saying marginalized communities earlier and some things
Okay.
like that, and I think that allows for a little bit of, and like I said, including, right? Like not including but not limited to, you know, immigrant populations, LGBTQ.
If you
In
see
the third
somewhere I
bullet
could put
point, we
it, let
do
me
have
know.
some,
trying to look as
like we have,
we
it says race, socioeconomic status, so those could be added.
Yeah,
In that
including but
bullet
not
point.
limited to,
Right.
something like that.
And then I would add, so including but not limited to diversity of race, socioeconomic status.
I think we're looking for, you could leave that language in there, but then you could qualify it at the end, so measures that can impact us. Well, maybe it's getting a little complicated there, but
So if I just add including but not limited to diversity of race, etc., does
Well,
that capture what you're wanting, or
I
should I
think we
add
were looking
something?
for maybe some actual wording that says something about
Yep.
like marginalized communities, either saying including marginalized communities, or my preference is in some space in here that we've been doing is to call out what that means. You know, to give examples, but obviously other people would bring those to here, but I think we would be interested. What I'm hearing you say is you'd like to hear somebody, not to say, I'm open to all cultures, but to say,
Right.
I've dealt with immigrant communities, I've worked in these issues, and they can call them out, we're calling them out, and that they can call them out as well.
We have room for another bullet point because there's a little white space.
Yep, no, I was gonna say,
We could add something as a new bullet point specifically identifying that, or we could incorporate it into the third bullet.
Thoughts number inside, we might, that.
I have a concern, not a thought. If we try to name all of the things, who might we inadvertently miss?
Exclude.
And I am not a fan of lumping all issues together, but I'm just, for the sake of brevity, for one, like just to kind of keep it concise. But then the other is, because we talk about ability on this side, but we don't look at, you know, what point of pride about ability on that side. I think it's one of the things I think is important though, and why it might merit a separate bullet point, is that it does feel as though one unique quality of St. Louis Park is the number of immigrant families that we have. And as Abdi Hakim pointed out earlier, it's not one type of community, one type of immigrant. It's immigrants from all sorts of places. And in the 20 years that I've lived here, has anybody else lived here? Okay, it has grown, it feels like. Like our demographics are definitely shifting. So in my head, I feel as though having just immigrant, because of the community makeup and because of how we're shifting in a separate bullet point would make better sense than trying to jam everything into this one.
Okay.
That's just my thought and concern.
And I'm going to follow up on that a little bit and my original comment too, because I mean, I am sort of leaning towards still calling it out, or some idea like Virginia talks about. But I was going to ask you, Barb, most candidates are savvy enough that they know how to speak to many of these issues when we talk about anti-racism or we talk about equity and things like that. They're going to be well-versed in these things typically too, right? Is that fair? I mean, because I'm a big fan of calling it out and allowing that permission, but we also know that some of these candidates that are probably going to be attracted to St. Louis Park will be sort of knowledgeable and know how to speak to these things, and they're not going to be coming in here and just generically talking to these topics, right? So
I would believe so.
Okay. That makes me feel better about it, but I'm open to now whatever people think is appropriate too.
I think it's yes and.
Yeah.
If we're, I think, if we're thinking about experience, well, I think there's two things. Like if we're looking at experience, I think somebody who has had experience working with a diverse population would be somebody I would be more attracted to as far as for a superintendent position, because they could speak to it in a different way. Also, I think that if I'm thinking in terms of, there are so many people out there who have their administrative license that don't hold administrative positions. And if they saw a school district that is saying this is where our values are, we value this, there might be more potential of them applying for the job than saying, oh, it's just another suburban district with predominantly white students. I don't want to go there because I'm not going to feel welcome. I don't know, just a thought.
Where are we at?
I mean, I'm very open to including it. I don't have strong opinions about separate bullet or including it in the third bullet. I guess I would just say, from my perspective, I would anticipate that we would be engaging in dialogue with candidates on this topic, and
For sure.
That's
so
kind of where I'm leaning now.
I'm less concerned with that.
There will be questions specifically built around this profile and your stakeholder results.
And can we ask, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but can we ask a very strong, I don't know how appropriate this is in terms of a question, but like, what is your experience working with immigrant communities? Or any like, can we ask pointed questions about
Yeah,
communities?
that's fair. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay?
I mean, I just want to start from, I already said that, but I'll say it again. First thing I want him, like, we are in the board here. I want someone to really hold everybody here. That's where it started, then it goes there.
Do you have a thought on where you might want to see that in your audio team?
I mean, look at all of them, I'm seeing it, but maybe I have a strong feeling when I see them in person.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
and that could be a question again, a question about how do you work to make sure that you are working with each individual school board member too, regardless of their whatever.
I know, I mean, I know I have my own bias, everybody have their own bias, but, you know.
We will definitely ask about that in round 1 or round 2. The questions can be as specific as you want to make them.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so I have added but not limited to, right before diversity of race. I haven't made any other changes to the rest. Are we okay with that? I do want to ask your thought on.
Did you do anything with the student-centered? Sorry, that was my original point.
That was, thank you for circling back,
Yes.
Colin. I did not change it, but how would you like me to change it?
I don't, can we, were we, like even, I said, even if it gets bumped up to, and bumps down that fourth bullet point, that maybe.
We can put it up to the 4th, the
you know what I
effectively
mean? Like
mediates
the
and
models,
accommodates.
you know, whatever that model's saying seems to, yeah.
It just occurred to me, making student-centered decisions is different than including students in the decision-making process. Those are two different things.
Yeah,
Like as an educator, I strive to make student-centered decisions. What I'm talking about with student voice is that students are power sharing.
right. And I'm talking about student-centered, yes, I'm talking separately
Okay.
about student-centered, but I'm saying it's akin to it, but not exactly, right?
Yep,
So-
so moving it up sounds great to me.
Okay.
To the 4th spot, perhaps?
Yep.
After ensures and encourages, it would be effectively mediates and accommodates?
Sounds good.
Okay. Do you want me to put the words student-centered in bold or underlined for any reason to really call them out, those particular letters?
I'm not,
No?
I'm not a
Okay,
We
fan
don't
of
have
that.
bold in anything else, so.
Yeah, I'm not a
Right.
fan of that kind of stuff unless we do it.
okay. If you
I'm
just,
just a little confused, so we're not using the word immigrant or refugee in that list? No, we decided not to?
That's what we were.
should we put it?
Yeah, I
in
was
there?
unclear too if we were gonna try, if you're gonna include it there or if there's a separate bullet point.
We're not included at all.
You did, right? Okay.
You all
I
tell me.
heard concern, I heard let's include it, and then I kind of heard like, well, we're definitely gonna ask probably multiple questions in our interviews that will
I mean,
get
the
at
whole
that
community
question.
including, right?
And I do see, diverse populations and cultures in the first bullet point. So, and I kind of heard what Virginia said about, like once we start doing a list, we're gonna miss somebody on the list. So that to me, diverse populations and cultures is, and it says successful experience. I think that's kind of what you were getting at, Virginia. We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So on this sheet, you'll also see that when we asked if superintendent experience was important, we had 6 say yes, 2 say no. So for that matter, at this point, we have in here previous superintendent experience preferred but not required because you weren't unanimous in either way. Do you like that language? Do you want to pull it out completely? Do you want to change it?
One of the
Feature?
outgoing
Oh,
board
okay.
members and both of the.
Okay, got it. I was gonna say, how do we get to 8? Okay, all right.
Previous superintendent experience but not
I think
required.
that is good.
As it's stated?
I think that's good as it's stated.
I kind of gets to
Especially-
your point about who,
6-1.
you don't want to preclude a candidate that might not have
6-1 or
the
6-2?
experiences, but also has passion and hasn't had the opportunity to get into that gateway.
Right.
Who
So,
doesn't want to work in a community that's all white? I mean,
Oh.
correct.
I work for a school district that is, the teaching staff is like, I don't even want to say, it's definitely not all, but it's a vast, or most of our staff is, 80% to 85% white. So,
So as stated, I'll just pull out the to be determined, all right?
I mean, I'm one of those who says no. I know experience matters, but at the same time, I don't want to be gutted. Yes.
So you're not requiring it. Previous superintendent experience not required, preferred but not required.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. About the community, back to Colin's point, how do we get more specific about the demographics of St. Louis Park? Would you like to, in that first bullet, somehow break it out? Would you like to remove some things? You'd suggested the splash pad and aquatic park, et cetera. Can pull that whole second to last one out and build another 3 lines or so?
Yeah,
With
I'm-
what you were
I don't
suggesting?
know how, I'm assuming that some of the people who are interested in our community are very savvy about us as a metro area. I think there's a strong presumption that we have a strong Jewish population, which is true, but I don't think people necessarily recognize that we have a Somali population or some other Hispanic populations and stuff too. So I don't know. So I don't know if there's some community data that we can pull on that would speak to that, what cultures people identify with or something, or if there's some other way that we can speak to that.
We could look tomorrow. This would probably go public on Thursday though, so I don't have a lot of time to do some research on the community's demographics. But the city of St. Louis Park might have something like that. I don't know.
Ashley, do you
I
have a
think
thought?
we can
Oh.
give it.
I just have a wondering too about how much information we want to provide and how much we
Yeah.
want the candidates to find and demonstrate
Yeah.
in response.
Mhm.
That's just my wondering.
It's a fair
That's a
point.
great
too.
wondering.
I also have a wonder, like, does it matter to us if the superintendent lives in the district?
We wouldn't make it.
Can't ask them anyway.
Can't ask them, don't care, no.
Residency in the statutes isn't required, so you can't even ask it or consider it.
I think if you check census, you will be able to find it.
Yeah.
Where they live?
Yeah.
I guess.
No, the demographics.
Demographics, yeah. Yeah, the
So
census, true.
So maybe it is okay, and maybe to other people's point, I just want people to understand, and maybe we're hitting on it in some other ways, but even if that question is, we're diverse, including recent immigrant and refugee families or something like that. If the bullet point is speaking to something like that, might be a way to call that out, because we haven't called out those populations otherwise. And
How important are the neighborhood associations?
depends on what neighborhood it is.
Like,
I wonder if we could replace with many neighborhood associations, et cetera, enhance quality of life for all, if we could just take out those 3.5 lines and replace it with
Well,
something along that line
But there-
instead?
But there is, because I work for census, I help for census
Okay.
2020, well, I saw it, like, there's some neighborhoods, they don't have neighborhood association,
They don't.
especially in the minority.
Yeah. I mean, there are some strong networks within the community, but they're kind of varied, and so
Okay.
it's inconsistent. So I'm sort of like, some of them are really great and do lots of programming, and others don't really exist.
So what I know is like we have East African community. When we say East African community, it's not only Somali, it's only Somali, Ethiopians, Kenyans, Tanzanians. We have West Africans too. There are Nigerians. We have Eastern Europe now, Ukraine. We have Afghanis too.
I'm not aware of snowboarding though.
So,
I feel like we can add those things and take out the whole list of recreational things.
Like lawn bowling.
I
What? What do you have against lawn bowling?
This is a little less applicable in a community such as yours because you're so close to so many opportunities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Districts that are 150 miles away from a regional center
Yeah.
fill this with all kinds of stuff because they want to attract people to their community.
Yeah.
Here, someone could live and drive.
If I do have a place to snowboard, St. Louis Park,
I think it's a regional.
regional.
So tell me what to pull out. A little more white space might be nice as well, so it's not quite so
I just
cramped.
think you can say recreational opportunities for all ages.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think that
Okay.
you should move Westwood Hills Nature Center up
Yeah,
because we have an agreement, the district has an agreement with them.
Okay,
yeah,
And
I would
we
like
use
to
their-
actually add language to that line about, how, like, because it's not just for solace and relaxation, it's like an educational space.
Yeah, and the science curriculum has integrated that into their standards. So that at the elementary level, middle school, and high school level, high school, I might be wrong. But at least at the middle
Yeah.
school and the elementary schools, there are programs specifically for St. Louis Park students.
how would you like me to reword that?
Westwood Hills Nature Center is a 160-acre natural area.
And
It's got to be the learning center. We have to have we have to have something about the
environmental learning center.
Yeah. That partners with St. Louis Park Schools.
But it's the first net zero building.
Mayor Spano would be, or outgoing Mayor
Yeah,
Spano would like that.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean.
I'm fine with just adding an environmental learning center.
Yeah.
I think it just, I wanted it to have some,
And, right, and it's,
that feel, okay.
and it's also,
I don't think we need to add a ton more.
yeah, because I was gonna say, well, do you really need to say for those seeking solace and relaxation, because it is educational, right? Like, do you want to, so
Do you want to
can we just drop all of
strike
that?
You can
So
drop
those
anything you want.
Yeah.
Our feelings are not hurt if you change any of this.
Marsh woods and restored prairies for those seeking solace and
The
relaxation.
whole
I think you want, personally, I
Yeah.
think including something about the partnership would be,
Because in some ways, it is great
Okay.
for seeking solace and relaxation, but it is a pretty progressive space for learning. And I think that's a strong, like in all ages, and kids do summer programming and
and
things
we
like
have
that.
a partnership.
Yeah,
Westwood Hills Nature Center is a 160-acre natural area and environmental learning center that partners with St. Louis Park Public Schools.
Great.
Ta-da.
And how high up do you want that one moved? You said you wanted it higher up, Ann, right?
above.
I would say at least above recreational opportunities.
That seems good.
Okay.
Maybe after year-round arts and
Yeah.
cultural activities.
I'd say there.
Okay.
It's actually, okay, it's actually might follow better if it was after numerous parks, trails, and green spaces throughout the city, but,
I can put it up there. Make
Oh,
it the
yeah.
third. Make it the third.
That's thematic, perfect.
yep.
Okay. All right, so I've removed, it says recreational opportunities for all ages. Done. All of that stuff is gone.
Okay,
that Westwood Nature Hills is now up underneath throughout the city. And there is, residential areas are diverse in their social, religious, and ethnic heritage. That touches on, I could certainly take out with many neighborhood associations to build community connections, because it doesn't sound like that is necessarily consistent throughout the city.
That does not resonate with me, I don't like that part, so I think
So-
we take that out.
If I pull out with neighborhood associations, build community connections, enhance quality of life for all, approximately 50,000 diverse individuals call St. Louis Park home, including many residential areas that are diverse in their social, religious, and ethnic heritages. I mean, I could combine that bullet point with that first one, and we could call out specifics if you want, Colin.
I don't know, do we want to say that including recent immigrant or refugee families?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
I also just want to point that recreational opportunities include sport courts and fields, indoor and outdoor skating rinks, they're the same thing, aren't they?
Oh.
They're recreational. So can we get
Can we
rid of,
just combine, yeah,
just call it
let's,
recreational opportunities for all ages?
period.
And take out the numerous sports court, et cetera. Okay? Yep. Fewer is better. So then am I adding approximately 50,000 diverse individuals call St. Louis Park home, including recent immigrant and refugee families, and a separate residential areas are diverse in their social, religious, and ethnic heritage?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Refugee families, okay. First bullet, approximately 50,000 diverse individuals call St. Louis Park home, including recent immigrant and refugee families. Numerous parks, trails, etc. Westwood Hills Nature Center, partner St. Louis Park. Residential areas are diverse in social, religious, and ethnic heritage. Year-round arts, etc. Recreational opportunities for all ages, done. The West End, a splash pad would be the last bullet point.
That's my favorite.
Is that your favorite?
My,
We could
my
leave
young
that in
will like
there.
that.
Maybe,
And again, this is
I
not
don't
to
believe it.
necessarily talk someone into applying.
Right, no,
They're gonna read
right.
it and go, oh, that's nice,
Right.
and move
I think
on.
that one's just fun. I like
it's
it.
a-
If people know of, the rec center, I think it's kind of
I feel like we should put vibrant community education program from SLP schools.
oh, do we have community education?
Because it is
Community ed would be
vibrant.
on the first page if you want it in
Patrice
there.
is doing an amazing job getting,
I think it's in the
restarting that
Can
program.
we put community ed on
Yep.
page 1, if we don't
Vibrant
already have it?
community education program?
Yeah,
Okay.
And
thank
early
you for saying
childhood.
that.
And early childhood.
Yes,
Because we got,
yes.
I don't know if we got an award or if it's just in my mind that we did, but it is an amazing early childhood program. I think we did get it, I think we did. So I think you can put those kind of together, the
Yeah.
early childhood and community ed.
Vibrant community education and early childhood programs.
And seniors too.
And
That's-
seniors, would that be in community
Kind of
education?
technically under.
Or is that-
Yeah, community ed.
But you say also early learning, so that's also technically in the community.
Education and early childhood.
Actually, senior programming isn't, common to every school district. A
Mhm.
lot of times it's run by seniors, so I don't know how, in the other ones that I know
Yeah,
of are
just
run by
add
cities and not
3
school
hours.
districts.
Vibrant community education program serves early childhood through seniors?
Done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Early childhood through senior citizens or seniors?
Ooh.
Seniors?
It's called senior program, so I think seniors. probably-
Seniors, yeah,
Seniors.
people will know.
Vibrant community ed program serves
They're kind
Early
of
childhood.
separate things, but that's okay. For the
Through
sake of
seniors.
argument.
Citizen is an outdated word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's inclusive, but.
Oh, no, yes, I agree with you. I was talking the community ed, the Knox and early childhood are kind of separate things, but they're kind of,
Yeah, they're all
Together.
under the umbrella,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
I'm gonna do, as a communication person, I'm gonna be obnoxious and say, will you move on the about the community to residential areas right under the bullet about approximately 50,000, so that it goes, the individuals in the neighborhoods, the residential areas, parks, Westwood.
Yes.
So it's a little more dramatic, sorry.
Nope,
Just
got it.
bugs me as a cop.
Approximately is number 1, residential areas is number 2,
Yes.
numerous parks is 3, and
Yeah.
Westwood is 4.
Yep.
Got it.
Can I go back?
Yeah.
Can you go back this page?
Yes. Oh, we haven't gotten there yet.
We haven't get there.
We haven't gotten there yet. We will. We'll talk about the stakeholder survey
I'll
soon.
go ahead.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
I just want to go.
Yeah, can we jump ahead, please?
So, it says salary and benefits to be determined. In the packet, there is the salary language options. We would like you to tell us which of these, or if there's another one that you want us to put in the brochure, vacancy brochure.
And so the differences generally are, if we want to name a salary range, if we want to talk about current versus minimum.
Yes. And this sheet will tell you what your current contract
Yeah.
amount is, if you wanted to put the current
And
salary.
these are schools that are mostly
Do you have a
outside.
data on
Yes.
outcomes?
This is the list that was sent to us, and I talked to Kate about that would be most
Okay.
comparable
Yeah.
to you. There were some larger districts that were on the list we originally got that you used for comparables, I think for student enrollment and something else. There were some things you compare the Hopkins,
Hampshire
the much larger
Oh, yeah,
districts. For superintendent contracts, her advice was to stay within the same size
Yeah.
for superintendent contracts, so
And
that's why
we-
the very large districts aren't on here.
When we were evaluating the superintendent in the spring, we also looked at other contracts during that time period. What is your advice?
Think they should get all the contracts they can? John's done lots of contracts.
No, I meant,
Not that,
I didn't necessarily, I
Looking
I
at
meant
these four.
what we
These
put.
options.
Which
Yeah.
of these
Oh, which of the
options
four?
is-
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I
No,
thought whether or
you
not you
don't
should get contracts, I'm like,
No, because the other thing is too, this is all, it's public data.
Right.
So you
Right.
can go
They can find
onto, they can find it, and then if their association is anything like my association, is we track those things.
So what's the challenge, I think, sometimes, and I look to Rick and other people to do this, is sometimes it's hard when you look just at salary, but when you factor in health insurance costs or other things, the county's done a good job of telling us what that value is too. So that's where I'm a little careful to say, to get stuck to salaries, because there's so many other things that those benefits can equal to in terms of cash or meaningfulness to people about whether they're covered, about, what their coverage looks
You
like,
bet.
or their PTO and what that means to them. So like, they assign a value to that as well. So that's where I would just say, I'm open for some language that we think is reasonable for the right candidate, that they can negotiate some things with us. So whatever language is closest to allowing for that is what I'm sort of.
Do you think we need to put like a number in here, or is the last one acceptable?
we see most districts, the last one's acceptable, it's very squishy though. And that's our concern, is you fall in love with a candidate, they fall in love with you, and you're $40,000 apart. That's a concern when it's that vague. The first one is used the most. Right?
Yeah, I think that one, it has been, and they're gonna know what the current makes.
It's
they're-
public data anyway,
Yeah.
right? I like that.
Candidates like a number, correct? They like to see something that indicates what
Yeah.
are they at least paying right now?
Right.
Knowing they may have more or less experience
Right.
with the current contract, so,
It tells them nothing except for
correct, it's very
what's
factual.
already public.
I mean, I never did before this. This area, I have no experience. I will just copy the seniors, whatever they put.
If you did the first one, it would say 210,904, a competitive compensation and benefits package.
Great.
The two basically takes.
So you could do that. That is
That's
the
great.
most common, but if you want to choose any of the others, you certainly
No,
may. Are we okay with number one?
Yep.
And it would say the 210,904. Okay, so that'll go in the brochure as well. Okay, making great progress. So that will go in the salary and benefits on this page as well. If someone could confirm that the numbers are correct for the financial highlights. We want to make sure we didn't have any typos on those four amounts. They were sent to us, but we typed them in, so we want to make sure we didn't have any human error with those financial highlights of the district.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Can we,
So,
should we select someone to do that, Rick?
I'll connect with,
Okay,
I'll take it.
Rick's gonna check on those with Tricia.
Okay, great, thank you. And then you'll see in here that contact information for myself and John and Craig are in the brochure. We get a lot of calls from candidates. John gets a lot of calls from people within the Twin Cities metro area because of his work in Mounds View, so a lot of people know him, and he'll be reaching out to plenty of folks about the opportunity.
does it happen like someone you wait for, would we put there?
Yes, Craig's experience specifically is not only in a lot of mediation and diversity, equity, and inclusion work, but he also is a national recruiter. He worked for Ray & Associates for a number of years as their national superintendent recruiter. So he would be reaching out to people in his contacts to make sure they know about this. But we are also placing it in 6 different national job sites. So it'll be on a lot of national jobs boards. Okay?
Thank you.
You bet. All right, so the brochure is done. Congratulations. Stakeholder input. I want to talk briefly about the qualification survey, which Abby Hakim had asked about here. I also want to let you know that if it's okay with the board, before January 3rd, we would like to visit with your members of your cabinet. And then we also would like to meet with the heads, leadership of the bargaining units, because we want to do three things. With that group, it takes maybe half hour to an hour if they have questions. We want to share information. By then, the brochure, the timeline, the survey, share information, answer their questions about the process, and ask for their help getting people involved.
You said before when?
Before the Q&A session on January 3rd. And we do it by Zoom an awful lot.
January 3rd?
We'd like to. And if we can't because of the holidays, I know it's Christmas break.
Yeah.
I just always want to tell folks, it's sort of a preview to our Q&A session. It's like an FAQ for your administrators and your bargaining unit leadership. If it doesn't work before January 3rd, that's okay. But a lot of folks don't feel it necessary to come on the 3rd if they've had their own chance to ask us questions privately as the cabinet or as the bargaining units. So we'd like to do that if it's okay with the board. It's not a focus group. We're not asking for input. We are sharing with them the process.
And if they're not able to make it, they could come to the.
Absolutely, come to the
So you're not
Q&A.
getting input from them?
No.
You're just sharing the process about.
We
okay,
share information,
that's-
answer their questions, and ask for their help.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of influence in their circles, so we want to make sure they tell people, hey, fill out that survey. Hey, make sure you watch that Q&A, even when it's a month down the road. So we want to bring them in early and loop them in with information. So we'll be doing
Put
that.
it out there that the
Okay.
week before winter break in the school.
I know.
is absolutely chaos. Just
It might not happen before the
lanes.
Q&A, hopefully shortly thereafter then.
Yeah.
And that's okay too, because we have the survey up until January 18th, so there's still plenty of time. But we'll be meeting with those folks, probably via Zoom, unless for some reason it works well to do it on a day John's in the cities or I'm in the
Yeah, I
cities.
can come.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on when it is, but yeah.
Qualification survey, which is this. This is only the English version. There is Spanish version and Somali version. So this is the English only for your review today, so you can see what is in here. We want to ask you about the title or role. Does that fit who they are when they take this survey? They may have different hats at different times, but what is the lens they're filling out the survey at the time? And then also the race question. We want folks to pick all that apply in that area. And I want to give a shout out to Rachel. This is very, very similar to the one she created for the 287 search. It's probably one of the best we've seen as far as how you would identify your race. It's very thorough compared to some other ones we've seen that are pretty brief. So on that first page in particular, questions, comments, concerns about these two areas here.
Yes. So the first questions are they put Africans, then comma Somali American, whatever it is. The second one they put the third one, 1, 2, 3. The third one they put Black African Americans. So I think Black, then those other community, including Somalis, Ethiopians, they got that one. So we don't need to write it 2 times.
For 287, do you remember how you arrived at these decisions? I thought it was there was
and when
important
you
to
say, like-
differentiate between the two,
Right,
Black and African American from the Somali or African.
right.
And at the
versus-
same time, you were saying here African, then Somali, then you say it's
African
Black.
American, right.
I'm a
Yeah.
Black, and I'm
Correct.
Somali too.
Correct. And so I'm going to leave this up to you, however you want to do it in here. I'm just assuming 287's had some work behind it to come up with these categories.
Also, like I want to also acknowledge the other community too. We have Ethiopians here, Oromo. We have West Africans too. Or maybe at least Africa, and then we add maybe others so they can identify themselves in the box.
On that first line or down where it says
I-
other?
There's other down.
I think
There's
first
other.
line I would like to cancel that one. So I will come like the one says Black and African American.
So, I think the intent of the first question is to make sure that we're not just hearing from people who identify as Black, but we're also hearing from Somali.
No, they did already. It's good. Say Black or African American. So when you say African American
Right.
and Black, even any form I feel it has that
But
one.
you
Then
can-
it has it has, then I have to identify I'm Somali or Ethiopian.
You can do as many as you want to.
Yeah, because
So-
like you put Somali is different, so the African Americans at the same time you put black youth, so like two identity of that. So if you ask me my identity, I'm black.
Right.
I'm Somali too.
But we don't want to assume if 50 people filled it out, we're,
No, we're still adding Somali at the same locations.
oh,
Still doing
What do you mean, you want to add it?
So here's the first one you see, they put Africans, they put common Somali, then they put Somali Americans, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one, black or African Americans. So Somalis and the other Africans, they will go the box in black. Somalis are black. Like they're,
Right,
you get it?
I understand what you're saying,
Yes.
like, the first box, it assumes that like folks who identify as African or Somali are not also identifying as black, and I understand your point that you can select more than
Say it
one.
again.
But like, that would be, I would think about like somebody who's like multiracial, like who's black and white and Latinx, right? Like might be, versus in this context, I understand what you're saying, it's sort of saying somehow you're not black because you're Somali, but that's, I understand.
but from a demographic sort of collecting data thing, you can't be assured that you're necessarily reaching Somali. If Somali is a large population that we want to make sure that we're reaching, then we run into an issue.
I think you misunderstood. We are putting,
Just take black off of it.
No,
Just
hear
like
me out,
African
hear me
American.
out though. Because hypothetically, you could have 50 people who identify as black who are not Somali select that box. And you wouldn't have any assurance that you're reaching Somalis.
But Colin, I think the point is like, you could, I think what Abu Hakim is saying is like, then separate black and African American.
Yes.
Like, don't put black with African
No, they're gonna
American.
be the same line, but when I say black, then I will identify Somali, black Ethiopians, black.
Right, either say black and then let somebody identify, or I think you could put it separate and just have African American be one line and black be a separate line, and so then you could choose African and black or African American and black. But right now, the way it reads is that black only applies
Like,
to
it's not what
African
I'm
people.
making it, it's every form I feel every day. It has that. It has black, African American, then I will say, come on, I will put Somali, the other person put Kenya, the other person put it. But I get you, but you mean that.
This is definitely more thorough than the census. So census has the
Yeah,
5
right.
categories.
Right.
And this was used in 287 because it got to the heart of, and I think your cultural liaisons, you have 3, correct? You have a Somali,
I mean, you're right.
African American, and Spanish. You have 3 liaisons, including a Somali and a black African American. I can't remember her title, I'm sorry. So you had 3. This allows us to collect more data if you want to break it out by subgroup and people who do identify as Somali from those who identify only as black and are not
Like-
Somali American
My point is,
or something.
my point is like like my point is I don't want to leave any other community behind. So like when you say black and African Americans, so those black, all the other community they can use, they can write it down. Then they have that box. They should have that box to write it. What they identify, whether they are Somali, whether they're Ethiopian or Eritreans, whatever it is.
I'm trying to think of how we might do this in our survey instrument because we aren't a market research firm. So if, for instance, we said black or African American and then subgroups, Somali American, West Africa, I mean, we could, I don't know that we could quantify that with the tool we use because it's not a very sophisticated survey tool.
I think actually I can help us that.
I don't know that I could, since I'm not the one creating the survey tool, that I actually can't help with that, but I was just gonna provide some context here too, that to Abby's point, we've also got the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders separated from Asian American, Indian.
Yes, that's
Which would have the same type of issue that we're having discussion about with our Black Somali.
yeah, I was coming to that too.
So I don't have an opinion really on how it gets done. I personally err on the side of, I like having more options. I'm not sure how to group set options.
I
May
think
I ask-
others also is gonna help us too, so people will be able to write it down.
Under other,
Yeah.
they could put other and then type in how they identify.
If you are to, as Sarah mentions, if you are to mix it, you know.
What is our intent in asking
question.
this
Yeah,
question?
good question.
And so what information do we want to get from this, and how are we going to use it? And that might help guide us in what we put.
I mean, our intention is to include all the community for the feedback. So to, as a board member, to see how they feedback, so.
Right,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
intentionality.
in my mind, then, sitting as a board member, I would feel like more information is better than condensed information. I'm also thinking about how data gets sort of, I've lost the word because I'm exhausted, disaggregated. And might it be easier to disaggregate information and data when you have it as an option that they can choose rather than having it as an other that they type in. And I'm getting some head nods, and I understand that I'm a middle school teacher and I only use Google Forms. But when I disaggregate information on Google Forms, one of the problems that I have is, because we do surveys all the time with students, one of the problems, if there's an other and they type it in, it's hard to disaggregate that data. And so if our intent is to know who is giving us feedback, then having more options will help us disaggregate it, because then we can say, wow, you know what? We only had, of the people who completed the survey, only 2% identified as Somali or Somali American, and we had 12% identify as Black and African American. And then that can make us say, oh, what might we do in order to get more information from the Somali community?
But we have more than Somali here though. We have Ethiopians.
Right.
Yeah, I understand. I feel like I'm trying to like think about like what I feel like I'm not communicating clearly because I'm tired. But I understand what you're saying. What I think I hear you saying is that as a Black Somali man, like you don't feel like this would be, and also not representative of other immigrant communities, right? Like that Black shouldn't just be tied to African American, right? Like,
Yeah,
Black
this
should-
is what I feel, two things. One, the first one is like, it says I'm not Black.
Correct, that's right, that's what I'm understanding you to say, is that
The
when you
sec-
check that box, you're saying you're not.
Yeah, the fourth one is not included in the whole community. So the fourth one is good. We can use that one, Black and African American, so they can identify anyone. So I think we can use a fourth one. Like first one, I don't think it's exclusive.
Because
That's
it says,
only inclusive for Somalis.
no, it says African. So do you want us to, so again, going back to my disaggregating information, put Ethiopian, Nigerian, West African. So,
I think Sarah get me what I'm saying.
no, I understand what you're saying too. But that first one doesn't, just because it has the word African in there. So we're sort of, I feel like,
Just
there's a hand in the back.
I'm sorry, I know it's late.
No,
so I
that's
have to get to my kids, but we can take it out first one?
If we remove
Yeah,
the first one,
First one, yeah.
and under Black, should we put comma, Somali, comma, or African American?
Black,
It doesn't sound-
Black,
African Americans,
American.
I know so far, Somalis, Ethiopians, I mean, we can say East Africans, we can say West Africans too.
Rick, did
Even
you
if
have
you
a
want-
thought
Well,
on how we've done this?
my thought goes to similar to what Eunice is saying, but, we keep data in some buckets, under the EEO guidelines, which I'm not saying is perfect, but if, they would have Black or African as one category. Now, we could say Black, comma, African American, comma, African, or, we could add, but then the minute you say Somali, then it's like, well, why didn't you say Ethiopian?
Right.
Why didn't you say,
Having like-
so,
Yeah, they will do. So like, you say Black, comma, Africa, comma, so if I'm Somali, I will put Somali. If I'm Ethiopian, I will put Ethiopians.
yes.
Like if
If
I'm
you did that-
Eritrean, I will put
I don't get
Eritrean.
the sense that the form allows for that type of input. I think it's a box.
Yeah, a lot of subcategories are difficult.
Like this is
The
new
form
things,
could-
like it's not new thing of the Hakim is bringing, it's form I feel every day.
No, I know.
I think the form could say, because we're making the form, Black, comma, African American, comma, African.
But I don't think that gets at the disaggregation we want, because we
No,
want to
it
make sure that we're also
wouldn't.
getting.
No, okay. So then-
But you could have a form that says Black dash African American, Black dash African.
Yeah.
Because the problem, I think, and then it doesn't sound like there's room to fill in is the problem. Like, I
Okay.
understand what you're asking, like to be able to say Ethiopian or
Okay,
And-
Somali
okay.
or.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think like what Virginia's saying about the forms is that if you do, even if you do give people room to fill in, then when the output is gonna look really messy on our end. When we get it, it's gonna be like
Can't
one
read it.
or two people in each disaggregated group.
Okay.
rather
And that's
than-
why it's important to
So-
understand
Yeah.
why, what's our intent.
So let's do this though. We know, right, do we know the data we have right now? The demographic data we have now, do we know how many we have? Then we can put in the form.
So should we use what the district already uses?
Yeah.
We don't have to use anything new and different. This is from 287's example, but
break it out by-
It's just the standard
the census ones.
census.
And it's very simple, and there's like 5 categories.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to use that instead?
It doesn't.
7
yeah.
categories?
I mean, it doesn't get at what
Right.
we're asking though.
Yeah.
If we care about understanding the input from our communities and understanding who is giving it. Because I studied, like when the communication survey went out, the vast majority and we used the district 5 identifying characteristics, the vast majority of the people who filled out the form checked that they were white. And just to your point, that doesn't take in immigration or refugee status. It just says that you identify as white. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, this is like really super complicated
No,
question.
I really don't remember how they use it, but I know when we looking for the city manager, the city use it too. When the community they were putting, they use it to get the demographic those who are doing the survey. Yeah.
I hear you don't want to exclude people, but I'm wondering, is there a compromise in terms of what are the top 5 or whatever, top 8
Okay.
communities, and then we put some other category, and that way we are making sure that we're hitting, that we hear from Somali, we're hearing from, okay. That seems like an acceptable compromise, that
Yes, sir.
we can focus on top communities,
Yeah, I think so.
and then put another category.
And the
Is
rest,
that enough?
Is there anyone who has,
I mean, the rest they can use others.
I'm assuming that
So
we
what,
have,
you mean like, but what we're getting, what we're collecting as a district is not 8 categories, it's like 5.
Well, we collect the 7 EEO categories,
Okay.
which include 2 or more, and, the
Right.
Pacific Islanders, all of that, and then Hispanic, Latino, as an ethnic group. They don't call it a race. but
Right.
So we basically have 8 groupings, and I'm not sure what the student system carries, but that's what we do for the employees.
But that doesn't help us with the
It
problem
wouldn't-
that we're talking
It wouldn't get
about.
us down to a more granular, and sometimes we get asked things like, well, how many Ethiopian, or how many people speak, and we we don't know how many people speak that. It's just not data we track.
Okay. I mean, I really like the form and the intentionality when it comes to like Middle East and Arab Americans, all these things. In census, they don't have it. Those people are counted as a white.
What did you think of Sarah's suggestion of like Black African American and Black African as two separate categories?
Did you say that?
That was Sarah's suggestion.
You said Black African American?
Black dash African American for one box, and then black dash African for.
No, we can use the whole thing, black dash African American. We can use that one.
But I understood you to
But
be
the
saying
problem
that
is,
you-
yeah, you're right. The problem, there's no box to put whether I'm Somali, whether I'm something else.
Right, that's what I'm saying, do you want the African box to also say black dash?
I don't think you want to have an African box at all, right? Is that what you're saying? Delete that top one and just use Black or African American?
What if we
Yeah.
merged them? What if we put them all in one category? Or are we worried that our numbers are gonna be too conflated like that?
Yeah, I mean, good. That's a great question, right? Like, are we gonna have so many that, or so few that we're gonna have, what's the intent, right? Like, do we need to get that granular? Or is it really that we're just trying to see that it's.
One of the reasons I think it's this way, as I understood in talking to Rachel when she crafted this for 287, one of the reasons I believe it is this way is that very often people who speak Spanish or speak Somali at home will fill out the survey in English. And we don't want to assume that they
Right.
are, you know what I'm saying? So very often the vast majority of survey responses are in English, and they will be. And even though there might only be 10 or 20 in Somali, it's possible that another 30 filled it out in English. And by asking their race or ethnicity, we know that even though the vast majority of responses were English, we still had a very good representation from the Somali community or from the Hispanic community. We will not slice and dice the data by race. We will do it for you by self-identifier, parents, staff. We will separate out the quantitative questions, the first 2 or 3 pages. We'll do by title or role. We will not do that for race, or it's just too complicated. We just want to ensure that these folks are represented in the survey.
Okay.
So it needs to be pretty simple, and I don't know if the ones that the census uses will tell you that you had a lot of Somali families responding to the survey, or you had very, very few.
Oh, so we wouldn't get that data anyway?
But we would get overall. It would be
Like how
You
many?
get overall.
Who participate?
Correct.
Right.
And we do say that select all that apply with
That's what I
this.
meant. I didn't need to know who answered what. I
Yeah.
just mean, I
Right.
meant to know, I would like, as a board member, I would like to know who is contributing to the survey. I mean, I think that's useful information.
Correct.
And then I think actually more useful information is if there was a missed opportunity, like we missed an opportunity to, and now here's a question. So the question is, how would you identify your race? Could it be, how would you identify your race or ethnicity?
Yes, I'm Black, Somali.
Can we just add the word ethnicity to after?
Mhm. You can do whatever you like. It's your
Right.
survey.
I'm like looking at you, Ashley, 'cause I don't know.
Well, I'm looking back at you because you almost could open it as 2 questions then, which would eliminate the issue in itself, where you could have a race, which includes our 5 standard, and a second question that has, what is your ethnicity, with a check all.
Okay, let's do this one. This is final. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Let's go with it. Black African American. That's it.
No, I like the ethnicity thing.
That doesn't tell us if we got Somali families.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell. Like if we say Somali, it doesn't tell us if we get
So
Ethiopians.
did you just hear what?
But what,
Okay.
but listen to what,
Right, no,
I like this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you could create, so underneath, you create a new question that says, what's your ethnicity? And you could take any number of ethnicities, ethnic groups, like, so we could add Somali, Ethiopian, West African, East African, Indian, You could even spread it out of subcontinents, you know, you have more options.
She nailed it, so that's all we need.
Okay.
But it would be very lengthy to have that many,
Well, we could have an other,
you-
right? And then it would just be, as it's presented to us, can it just be a list of?
We
And
can
it
summarize
doesn't
it for
have to
you.
be
The
a
survey will not
required
open on
question.
Thursday with these many changes, so.
Like,
we
it
need-
doesn't have to be required. You can skip it.
Yeah, you can skip any of the questions in the survey. If you only fill out one out of the 12, I mean, yes,
Okay.
yes.
I apologize again, I'm sorry.
No, don't
No,
apologize. This is a great
This
conversation.
is a really
That was
good
a rigorous
conversation.
conversation in which I learned a lot.
So what are we
Okay.
doing?
So we're doing 2 questions. One is the EEOC categories, right? Is that what I heard Ashley say?
So I didn't, so
How
we
would you
can,
identify your race? EEOC?
Race, and then the second one is.
so we're condensing down to the 5 categories at
Per
the,
race, and then
Right.
have
and
a
then,
separate
yeah,
question.
okay, I didn't have this condensing down, but I did have the second question on ethnicity. And then we would need the,
Who will send me the EEOC ones that you want me to use so I can get it correct?
I would, I can, but I'll need to work with my,
Yeah,
make sure we can.
You'll be able to send it
We'll
to me
agree
tomorrow?
sometime.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so that will say, how would you identify your race? Select all that apply, or you
Yep.
pick one when you
Yeah.
have the
Yep,
EEO,
yep.
the EEO ones? All that apply, select all that apply for your race. What is your ethnicity? Is that the way you want it to be worded, or do you want to say, how would you identify your ethnicity?
That one.
The second.
The second one,
Just
how
like
would
the
you
first one.
identify your ethnicity? So the first one is identify your race, identify your ethnicity. How would you identify? And then select all that apply for ethnicity also. And who is setting, is it the above list? And I'm
Do
removing
you
some of
wanna-
these?
Work on a list of common, of what we think is within our district, I think, and then with another. How about that?
And you'll send me those tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, so disregard the hard copies we've already sent you in Spanish and English, because we'll need to update the Spanish survey in hard
Yeah.
copy, and we'll need the Somali survey updated
Okay.
then too. Okay, survey might not go live on Thursday, we'll see how tomorrow goes from everybody, okay?
Everyone's going on winter break anyway. No,
Okay.
it's not this week.
Great conversation, thank
Okay,
you.
that was
So
good.
in here, there are quantitative questions, which are your crunch top 6 kind of thing. There's the yes, no about previous experience as a superintendent. This list here is identical to the list you used for hiring criteria, so we compare apples to apples with your stakeholders to the board.
Great.
And then the open-ended questions, they can say as much or as little as they want to with the open-ended questions. These are all anonymous. There are no character limits on any of the open-ended questions. If someone only wants to fill out 1 or 2 out of all 5 pages, those 1 or 2 answers are counted.
Okay.
So everything will be included and it will be in the 3 languages. Okay, great, thank you so much. That was a great conversation, I appreciate it. Then we need to talk about, I am. In here, it talks about stakeholder input, the qualification survey we just got through, the idea of focus groups and/or listening sessions. If you would look at the page that says stakeholder input, this is a page directly out of our proposal. Focus groups and/or listening sessions are not a part of our base fee, and it's addressed in the a la carte option on where it says page 3. It also is addressed in the second paragraph on page 10. So, is it okay if I just keep talking, or do you want to read those 2 paragraphs first?
You can tell.
Okay, so one of the things we learned from the pandemic, a very traditional methodology of doing searches is to have the survey open and then go do focus groups. What we learned in the pandemic is when people couldn't go to those focus groups, the transparency and the response rate of the survey went way up. More people participated in the survey when they didn't have the option of going to a focus group or a listening session, for whatever reason. Maybe it's the 24/7 access, and there will be hard copies, by the way, it's not just all electronic. So stakeholder input through focus groups is an option for us now because we didn't want to automatically include them for every single district. Every district is different. If it is something important to the St. Louis Park schools, we will definitely do those listening sessions and/or focus groups. We just want to be careful so they are not unintentionally exclusive. If you do 10 focus groups and they're on days or times that people can't come if they don't have transportation or childcare or they do shift work or they don't speak English, you're not reaching the people you're trying to hear from. So one of the ideas we had in conversation again with Rachel and Ashley, is perhaps instead of doing focus groups, we do, what did I call it on the stakeholder? Multilingual survey groups. So we would go into the communities that speak Spanish and speak Somali through your cultural liaisons to, first of all, explain the role of a superintendent, some educational capacity to those meetings, maybe 20 minutes to a half hour of what a superintendent is. We'll have translators there. We will be there to answer questions about the role of a superintendent, and then help people fill out the survey, whether it be in English or in Spanish or in Somali, whether it's a hard copy or whether we have computers there. So it would be a stakeholder outreach effort specifically to your multilingual families. It would not be with the Rotary Club at noon on Thursday. Those folks we feel will fill this survey out electronically. We'll hear from them. Do we reach out specifically to your bilingual and multilingual families through your community liaisons? Does that appeal to you?
Yeah.
May I just ask it sort of, I don't know if it's going to be tangential, but what is, like, what are some weird things that might pop up during this process? Well, I'll just ask it really frankly. So community members reach out to board members? Because all of the interviews are open, right? So does that happen, Ann? So community members will reach out to you and share their input? Okay. And then as a board member, I listen and I say thank you and take it into consideration. So those are options?
Yes.
Not options, but so that happens. Is there any other thing that might happen to get, I mean, like, do public comments? I mean, I'm just curious how some of this.
There wouldn't be an opportunity, like, in between there for, like, an open forum at a board meeting, but certainly people would,
As soon as you name your finalists
Yes,
that night
you'll
after
start getting
ABC,
emails.
you'll be lobbied for and against candidates left and right.
Yeah.
They'll dig into social media posts from 10 or 20 years ago and tell you, did you know they posted this in 1987? I mean, I'm just being facetious, but you'll hear those things and you simply need to say thank you for the input and then move on. Don't engage in back and forth.
There's one more group that I was just thinking about from some of my communications work, and I don't know how applicable it is to our community, but also disability community too, in terms of a focus group, whether we want to do some things to people either. So it could be just, people that couldn't otherwise fill out forms easily or something like that, or need a high-res version or something like that to fill it out. I don't know what our population is, what kind of accommodations we've made in the past, but that would be another group.
Are there communications channels to reach pockets in the community that are disabled? We could do one with them perhaps as well.
We probably could do them with, like we have certain programs and groups that we have student groups that would probably tap into, including special education.
I'm just thinking low-res vision or people that might need some other help.
They usually, I mean, I think the state of Minnesota usually they have.
There are some services, I just want to make sure that we're not somehow excluding that community too. If we could just check into that or something, I feel. Just make sure that it's like, or whatever form we provide, if we have to provide an alternative for somebody who can't fill it out online, or that we have information about how to get an alternative version of it or something like that. That's my point, would be.
Somehow, okay. We'll have the hard copies available. We can do large print hard copies.
Okay.
They could call me or MSBA and talk to them on the phone. We'll fill it out for them as we're talking to them on the phone.
Okay.
The district could do that as well if they wanted to. So there's a lot of options.
Okay.
In speaking to Rachel and Ashley last week, one of the things that when we talked about, for instance, the Somali language speakers and the Spanish speakers, perhaps 2 to 3 groups per language, so 4 to 6 of those survey input sessions at a time and a place in the communities that they feel they could come, as many people could come as possible. We'll have staff there to assist with that as well. We did talk a little bit about whether or not you want us to go into student groups and ask them to fill out the survey.
That was actually my next question too.
Obviously, there's a room for students on here. Or do you ask your staff to encourage students to fill this out without any impetus from MSBA.
Actually, I believe this is true, that all of our students get the same district communications that parents get. Whether they read it or not, I don't know. But when district not necessarily.
The secondary schools all have homerooms or like not a homeroom, but
Advisory.
like advisory or oral time. I'm wondering if it can be incorporated into that.
I think that we could, but I kind of feel like it might be of interest to folks to have like one at the middle school, one at the high school, just like session
Yes.
where you all are there to help answer questions in the same way,
Yeah.
and maybe some.
Also just sort of like you said, teeing up, like, what does the superintendent do? Like,
Right.
why is this
I think
important?
that would be good.
I think
I-
that's
when
a
we
great
have
idea,
done-
but how do you gonna select it?
How do you what?
How do you gonna select
the
some?
student?
Right.
Okay, you just have like
Oh.
an open session.
Yeah.
After school or something. I don't know, maybe I'm
I-
not being realistic about that.
Because like you get into transportation issues and things like that. But to the point about a focus group, it would be interesting to see how we get student input.
So we have various ways that we have some groups that are already existing that would be, like, if we didn't want to go out to everybody with like the presentation, right? Then we have SOAR, we have the principal, what was it, advisory group, we have the GSAs. Like there are existing groups that would be sort of natural that we've done in the past, right? Like we go to a bunch of different groups. So that would be one possibility because a lot of those groups have like meeting times. Or what? I wonder if we could even like. Okay, I'm thinking, like, could we film like a 5-minute little video about it and then show it in advisory, and then they fill it out in advisory?
Well, I
You'll
don't.
do whatever you want.
So what are this is the dumbest question, but like, what are the ethical implications? I mean, I think at an advisory time, showing a video that encourages, and then having having the survey accessible to students. However, I think that's a great idea. But I mean, like telling them that they have to do it. I don't know.
Oh no, I mean just giving them the
They have to,
opportunity to
just
do it, right?
Giving them
Yeah.
access to
Yeah.
it. And giving, like, sharing your contact in the same way, like they should be able to have the same access.
Right.
I think that's a great idea, but I'm thinking about inclusivity. So like when we say we have to reach out some groups, we are leaving other groups behind.
Sure. Yeah, and that was like the video idea would make that other thing irrelevant, maybe. I don't know. Maybe those don't.
We don't have the video equipment or storyboards
I
and
know,
such
I
to
know.
do
I'm
this,
just,
however, if communications
let's-
supervisor
Girl,
wants to help us with
Let me
that.
introduce you to Google Meets, and you record it, and then you slice it.
We can.
Sounds like our Q&A
Screen-
session, actually.
Very much, and
Screencastify as
JJ,
your
we
teacher
There's
friend.
definitely
we can pull it.
John's in charge of it, he's funnier than me.
motivation to
Yeah,
get
right.
student input. Right now, we don't have to solve all of the, like, how. So, let's put that on our list.
So,
But there's a budget implication. to
Correct.
that. So the more that we go up to 10,
Right.
we're talking $30,000 or something. I don't know, maybe I made that number up, but if we're talking 5, it's, what are the amounts or something?
the page that says stakeholder input at the bottom,
Yeah.
you'll see that it's $300 a group, or it's $13.95 a day, if we can
Okay.
get a whole bunch in the
Okay.
same day. I don't want to have you feel as though we're trying to nickel and dime anything, though. We're just
Right.
trying to protect districts from
Yeah.
doing very ill-advised attempts for outreach, and they're not getting anything back from it that
That's
is worth
useful.
anything.
Very
So
useful.
if you pay for it, you want it to be worth something. So the thought process is much more deep,
And it's-
if you know there's cost associated, but we don't want to bankrupt
There's
St. Louis Park
logistical
doing
costs
these
that people
things.
don't see, that it's
Correct.
like, you guys getting here, it's whatever, it's grading materials.
And there are many districts that are more homogeneous, that the survey instrument is the only tool they use. The survey is very far and wide, it's hard copy, it's online, and they get just about everybody they need to hear from. Districts as diverse as this need more intentionality around how are you going to get the feedback from those groups. So the fact that the survey instrument, we need feedback from people before, ideally, January 18th, because we need to have the report done and brought back to you well before February 7th. So how many groups can we do between now and January 18th? We did talk about going to the 26th as well, knowing there's a little more time. We'd like to close the survey tool online on January 18th to give our staff time to start weeding through all of the responses to put together an initial report. And we could additionally do focus groups between the 18th and the 26th and weave it into the report. But that time is short for us, so it can't be, we need some plan in order to do it, and how and with which groups. And I'm sure that Ashley and Rachel will help us coordinate them.
Yeah.
It just can't be put off too long or it won't happen.
Okay. So can we, I think definitely consensus around the, like language and culture groups.
Okay.
Is that what I heard? And you said like a couple of those for each group?
Yep.
And consensus around some way of getting, of really engaging in student input.
Okay.
We'll,
I would just reach out to Lanisha and say, how did you put together your principal advisory board? And maybe you start there and see if that is happening at the middle school as well.
Okay.
We'll get it. Yeah.
Great. So that's the second one. I'm not going to talk a lot about finalist interviews on here. I just want you to know you have the option to talk about that after you've seen the stakeholder report. When you've seen that stakeholder report with all of the quantitative data and all the information summarized and the supportive quotes that are coming through the open-ended questions, at that point we'll decide with you what you want to do for the interviews.
Okay.
You may have interview committees. You may not. You may have people observing your interviews and providing electronic feedback to you, which I talked a little bit about the last time. You may choose to only use your stakeholder report as your resource during the interviews. You may have meet and greets. You may have Q&A sessions with a moderator from MSBA to screen the questions. So a lot of options for those finalist interviews. You don't have to decide yet, but we will be talking about it. And I always get a question in the Q&A, how will people be involved in the interviews? We don't know yet. There's a lot of options the board are going to be considering. That's what we'll say. Okay? All right, so role of the current superintendent. We're making progress here. Traditionally, there is no role for a sitting superintendent. Are you okay with that? Kate was okay with it, but I want to just check with you to be official.
Yes.
She's not at the table tonight. She'll be a cheerleader for your district and an ambassador for people who call her about the position. That's usually a really vital role. School board spokesperson doesn't have to be decided tonight, other than it's traditionally the board chair. And this search is occurring in January, February, and March.
But typically it's you.
So just food for thought. If the media wants a quote, we want one person on the board to be giving quotes to the media. So the chair is okay with that? Wherever that will be in January, we'll see?
Right.
Okay. So
That's right.
we would like you to share the postings that the communications department is putting out on their Facebook page or on Twitter or on the district website. Share those on your own pages. It's more informational if it's accurate and it's the district. We don't want you making up your own posts because you might accidentally misrepresent that. So share the district posts and we're good for an information standpoint. In-district contact people, I'm working with several. Obviously Barb, working with her for things with the board, working with Rachel and Ashley on communications. If and when you need hard copies of the applications, I'll be working with your HR person. Otherwise, I know who I'm working with already and I think they're okay with it. You're right? You're okay with that? Okay. Review the search agreement. This is pretty quick. When you look at this a la carte option, actually page 10, fee for service, all I want to do is remind you that I'll put a search agreement together based on what we talked about tonight. It will say to be determined. There'll be a base fee of the $18,900 with to be determined depending upon the number of focus groups and/or listening sessions. So that we'll know at the end of the search. We don't invoice you until after the search is done and you have a signed contract with someone. If you don't find the right person this time, we can extend the search a couple more weeks, see if people apply in April or May, or we will do the search for free again next year. But we don't charge you till you have a signed contract with the superintendent. And then the satisfaction guarantee, for any reason, if you part ways in that first year of the contract, we will also do another search for free. In order to get that guarantee, though, we want you to go through our transition workshop. Once the superintendent's been in the district for a couple of months, we'd like to come back and talk to you about expectations for performance and the performance evaluation process. So you have to do that in order to get that guarantee. Okay? Pretty simple. Those are the kinds of things that'll be in the agreement. The agreement basically mirrors exactly the proposal, so you'll have no surprises in there. And then finally, this page is a list of 12 questions. There's another 20 or 30, but the areas that are highlighted in yellow are areas many districts want to ask on their application. And I really love that we don't use AppleTrack anymore, because when we did use AppleTrack, we asked the same questions in the application of every candidate for every district. We had no flexibility. Revelis allows us to ask questions specific to St. Louis Park. We always ask, based on our leadership profile, why are you the best candidate for the position? That'll be in there, but there's room for 2 more in Revelis. So I'd like to know what areas matter to you in the application or screening process that would intrigue you enough by their answers to want to interview them. These are suggestions. You do not have to pick from this list. You can wordsmith anything on the list if you want to.
And you want that tonight?
Because we're going to post it on the 20th. That's coming up pretty quick. Yeah.
You want to choose 2?
2. Or make up 2 more. You don't have to use these.
Well, I like 1, 6, 9, 11, and 12.
I also circled 6 and 9.
I really, I'm proud of our districts, and I would not have run for St. Louis Park if I wasn't. And I'm proud of our equity work. We haven't talked about curriculum, and we haven't talked about like innovative things in education. There are so much innovation going on, and leadership matters. I'm not saying that that it's even separate from equity work, but I am aspirational, and so maybe that is part of my problem, because I'm full of hope and excitement for the future. And I would, I'd be curious to how they have enhanced the curriculum in the district that they're working in, and innovative programs, or an initiative that they're really proud of. Like, we are in the business of education, and I would like for them to talk about community engagement is super important.
But these are just screening questions.
I know.
We can ask whatever we want.
I know, but
I'm just saying.
I also want a strong curriculum leader.
What if we went with 12? Could I suggest 12 instead of 11, just because I think it's a little bit more broad?
Sure.
And I like that it names the impact on students. And then could we do one of the other kind of like, I don't know, I like number 9, but.
Yeah, I lean towards 9 versus 1.
I'm good with 9 and 12.
Does that work for you? Okay. That works for you?
Yep.
You like 9 and 12?
I like 9. Okay. Maybe 1 more.
With 12, do you not like 12?
I like 1.
Any of these could be interview questions
Yeah,
also.
there's going to be some good.
To Ann's point, think of your
Yeah.
application questions as very broad, so
Yeah.
you get a sense of who they are, and do I want to interview them based on, and they might write a lot.
Yeah.
And then you want to narrow it down for round 1 a little bit more, and then round 2 is very specific questions, where you might ask very specific curriculum scenario questions. So the broad questions tend to be really, really good for the application.
Yeah, I mean, I tended to believe that just in some recent hiring of my own, where I was looking for higher level skills, and somebody who could speak to higher level skills knew how to speak to their higher level skills. So if you asked them about an initiative or diverse backgrounds, it was not a standard answer.
Right.
People who tended to be lower experienced tended to have a more generic answer. So you can get a pretty good sense right away from a couple of these questions whether they really have the skill set you're looking for, right from these kind of general screening questions. So, yeah.
Are we good with 9 and 12 in the application? And then we'll circle back to these if you'd like when we talk about interview questions. We can certainly. Okay?
Great.
What questions do you have for us? That was a lot of questions. Great discussion.
How do you handle this? You have so many districts that you do this for.
How do we clone ourselves? We work a lot of hours. We love what we do.
Yeah, no, that's apparent that I just say, I joked about that, but I do appreciate that you've taken the time to really work through this with us, as we've had a lot of detailed questions and stuff too. So that it can be complicated, right? Because every district is different. We see that when we go to school board organizations that
Oh, yeah.
they each have their own kind of character. So.
Well, congratulations. That was a lot of work. Planning meetings take time because there's a lot to iron out. But I will get the brochure updated, the timeline corrected. I'll work with Ashley on the survey. Amy should be in the loop on that also then, because she'll be doing the typing. And then I want to thank you for that really healthy discussion, Abby Hakeem, on the ethnicity and race. That was helpful for us as well as a search firm, so thank you for that. We will allow you to adjourn if you think you're done. Otherwise, we'll stay.
I will
about that.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Colin, second by Sarah. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned at